Hello everyone, and welcome to Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting series on what if Naruto became the most powerful ninja Gaiden legend. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. A young 5-year-old Naruto Uzumaki was currently exploring the northwestern edge of the 44th training ground, better known as the Forest of Death. He first went into the Forest of Death when he was third birthday, when he was trying to run away from a drunken mob. Most of the animals usually left Naruto alone. The only creatures that tried to harm Naruto were the giant spiders. Naruto looked paused in his walking and around to check to see if he was being followed by the spiders, as they did not like giving up a chase unless Naruto reached the fence. They were nowhere to be found. It was if the area Naruto was in off-limits zone for them. You are correct about this area, young man. An old voice spoke to the left of Naruto. Naruto turned around to see an old man sitting on a boulder. The man was dressed in traditional Japanese weaponsmithing apparel. The man had a long white beard that matched the man's bushy white eyebrows. Wrapped around his left wrist was Buddhist prayer beads. Naruto quickly bowed to the stranger, wondering why he was out here in the Forest of Death. Correct about what, Elder Sama? Naruto dumbly asked the elderly man. About why the giant spiders don't follow you into this portion of the Forest of Death when they chase after you, as a special energy protects this area from the corrupted creatures of this forest. The elderly man answered. Naruto was confused as to why this area was protected from the giant spiders. Before Naruto could ask why the area was protected, the old man spoke. "I've been waiting for you, descendant of Hayabusa," the old man said as he bowed in respect. Naruto looked around to see if he was talking to someone else, but found that there no one behind him. "Do you mean me, honorable elder?" Naruto asked as he pointed to himself. "You're the only other person here besides me, young boy," the old man spoke in an amused tone. Suddenly he got serious and ordered, "Come with me, child, it is time for you to discover your lineage." Naruto, knowing he had no choice, quickly followed the old-timer. 30 minutes later, the pair was on the outskirts of the Hidden Leaf village. On the journey, the old man revealed a lot of information to Naruto. For starters, the old man's name was Muramasa, the legendary weapons smith from the Land of Iron. He explained about how Naruto's mother, Kushina Uzumaki, was part of the Uzumaki clan, who were in turn direct descendants of the Hayabusa clan, which explained the Uzumaki clan's extreme longevity, as the Hayabusa clan were hybrids of humans and dragons. Finally, he explained the sacred duty of the Hayabusa clan, which was to defend the human race from creatures known as fiends. However, that duty had changed after the great calamities that rocked the world, as even the fiends were fighting to stay alive and staying out of the way of the large numbers of the newly arriving demons. Until they finally arrived to the cave, and Muramasa told Naruto to head into the cave alone. "What's in the cave that requires you to send me in alone, Muramasa-sama?" Naruto asked nervously. "Only what you bring with you and your clan's heritage, Naruto," Muramasa answered in a sad tone. Naruto gulped and went inside the cave, hoping to see daylight again, not knowing that he was about to embrace his destiny. Naruto slowly walked through the cobweb-infested corridors, his head swiveled as he looked out for any traps. He suddenly fell as he had tripped over something on the ground. He slowly picked himself up and looked back at what he tripped over. His eyes went wide-eyed at what it was, and he scrambled backwards towards a wall. There, lying on the ground in front of him, was a rotting skeleton. By the looks of the clothing, the person, when they were alive, the person had died when the Hidden Leaf village was first founded. Naruto saw something shining around the skeleton's right wrist of the skeleton. He slowly crawled forward and saw that it was a name bracelet. Naruto freed it from the skeleton and put the bracelet in his pocket, knowing Sarutobi would want this bracelet later if Naruto survived his journey. He continued onwards, hoping to find what he was sent down looking for. Finally, after wandering around the dungeon, Naruto came across a single ninjutsu with a red grip and had a golden handguard. The blade itself was sheathed in its black sheath. It was being held up by a wooden stand purposely designed for holding swords. Naruto picked it up and, almost like he was in a trace, partially unsheathed the blade. He bent down and pressed his forehead against the flat side of the blade, where a traditional depiction of a dragon was carved into it. A green energy appeared around Naruto. However, Naruto clenched in pain as the energy attacked his center of his chakra. He did the one thing that he could, he screamed. With Sarutobi, the third Hokage was currently with the Konoha Council. The council was broken up into 4 groups. The first group was the civilian merchants who formed the backbone of Konoha's economy. They were the richest people in Konoha outside of the clans. The next group was the duly elected officials that represented the interest of the non-shinobi citizens of Konoha. They 2 groups formed. They handled the day-to-day affairs of the civilians who happened to be living in Konoha. The next group was the Shinobi Council, which was the smallest as they were made up of the heads of the various shinobi branches such as the head of the Anbu Black Ops, the medical, the Hokage appointed representative, and the head of the academy. The final group was the Clans Council. They handled the affairs of all the ninja clans within Konoha's walls. The Hokage and his advisors along with Danzo, who was once part of the Shinobi Council, acted as observers, and in the case of a tie they would vote to break the deadlock. However, the council was currently arguing about what to do about Naruto. The civilians, who were led by Hanzo Haruno, who controlled 75% of the businesses in Konoha, was arguing to execute or exile the boy, preferably to execute him for his supposed crimes against Konoha. He was being backed by Fugaku Uchiha from the clan council, while on the other side the Hokage appointed representative, Jiraiya, and Kue Higurashi, a retired shinobi turned member merchant, was leading the shinobi council and clan council in protecting the boy from unjustified harm. That abomination must pay for his crimes against us before the Yondaime turned it human. Hanzo yelled in frustration at the military portion of the Konoha Council. He is the container of the 9-tailed fox, ya stupid idiot. We kill him, it might release the demon. Jiraiya yelled and responded, offended that this civilian dare question the ability of his deceased apprentice. Just then a wave of evil energy washed over all of Konoha. The shinobi were quickly to respond and rushed off to a point of origin, leaving the civilians confused by the sudden departure of their shinobi counterparts. With Muramasa just smiled as the sword did its magic of removing the taint of the 9-tailed fox from the young Hayabusa heir. Just then the entire shinobi council appeared behind him. "Excuse me, civilian, you need to vacate the area now," Sarutobi ordered, not knowing who he was dealing with. "I do not need to go anywhere, young man," Muramasa spoke in a calm, even tone. Sarutobi was taken aback by the civilian's tone and his treatment of him. "Listen here, civilian. I am the Hokage of this village. You will listen to my orders or else," Sarutobi threatened the unknown civilian. Muramasa turned his head partly and gave Sarutobi a heated glare, causing the old Hokage to back up in confusion. However, Kue and Jiraiya recognized and quickly kowtowed towards him, causing much shock everyone. "Forgive our Hokage, for he is ignorant of you, or Muramasa Dono," the 2 pleaded to the old man. All the shinobi went wide-eyed at the name the 2 just spoke, as Muramasa was legendary throughout the elemental nations as being the greatest weaponsmith. In the First Shinobi World War Peace Treaty he had his own written clause that stated that he was to be left alone at all times. Why was he here in Konoha? Many wondered. Muramasa turned completely towards Kue. "It's good to see you again, Kue. How's the family?" he asked. "They're doing quite well, Muramasa Dono. May I ask why you are here?" Kue asked with great concern in his voice, as his former master would never leave his workshop in the land of iron. "Oh, I'm just here to help bring about the resurrection of the Hayabusa clan." Muramasa spoke like it was the most common thing in the world. This caused many shinobi to start whispering to each other as they all heard of the Hayabusa clan. The clan predated the Great Calamities and the Sage of Six Paths. They were considered the greatest ninja clan in history. There are even rumors that the first Hokage based the Hidden Leaf Village off an idea of the Hayabusa had with dealing with living in large numbers. Just then Naruto appeared out of the cave with a beautiful ninjutsu in his hands. Naruto's appearance had changed. He had shot up 6 inches from a puny 3 inches 3 to 3 inches 9. All of his fat was burned away, leaving only his developing muscles in their place. His hair had changed from its pervious golden blonde hair to a dark brown. But the most startling change was his eyes. They were originally an ocean blue, but they turned to dragon green, but with a slight golden hue in it as well. The scariest part of was that they were silted like that of a reptile's eyes. The only way they could tell that it was Naruto was the 3 whisker-like marks on his cheeks. "Naruto, is that you?" Sarutobi asked with concern in his voice. He didn't notice that the civilian council just arrived at the sight of the new and improved Naruto, causing many civilians to think that he truly was a demon. "Yay, it's me, old man." Naruto spoke in a voice that sounds like it could give off wisdom naturally. This was all the Hanzo needed to prove that Naruto was indeed a demon. "See, I told you he was a demon freak, now he has awakened his fiendish powers," Hanzo screeched. The rest of the civilians nodded their heads in agreement. That was until Muramasa disappeared and reappeared behind Hanzo with a sword pressing slightly into Hanzo's neck enough to draw out some blood. Hanzo gulped in fear as began to shake uncontrollably at his possibly imminent death at the hands of the greatest blacksmith in the world. "Care to say that again, you fool? He is a member of the dragon lineage. His blood has just been reawakened and the nine-tailed fox is dead." Muramasa spoke with venom in his voice. Hanzo managed to shake his head. Naruto collapsed onto one knee, which Fugaku saw as a sign of weakness. He pulled out a kunai knife. "The demon is vulnerable right now, we need to strike it down while it's still weak," Fugaku yelled as he activated his Sharingan eyes and charged at Naruto. What happened next awed and horrified the people present to witness the event. Naruto looked up and saw the foolish Uchiha coming at him with the intent to kill him in almost slow motion. He got to his feet at an inhuman speed and vanished. The next thing happened was Fugaku screaming in pain. Everyone looked in Fugaku's direction to see him holding his right arm, or what was left of it, as blood skirted out of it like a water hose. Next, Fugaku's legs, which horrified the civilians as even more bloody poured out of his body. Finally, Naruto appeared in front of Fugaku with his ninjutsu ready to launch the finish blow in right hand. "Please spare me, please," Fugaku begged, trying to save himself from the embrace of death. Naruto only sneered at the sight of Fugaku. While normally he would be hesitant of killing someone if he was in his previous state, but Naruto's dragon blood within him told him to kill Fugaku, as it would be more merciful and it would save Naruto a shitload of harassment from him. Naruto placed his left hand on the sword's grip, causing Fugaku's eyes to widen in realization that Naruto intended to kill him. Fugaku, realizing it no longer mattered what he did, started cursing out Naruto. "Damn you! You worthless Hayabusa filth! Damn you! My clan will avenge my death at your hands!" Fugaku screamed out before Naruto's blade cut his head off, silencing him forever. Naruto started to collapse from exhaustion but was caught by Jiraiya, who teleported away from the area. On Mount Miyanoku, Shima was tending to the garden while she waited for her husband Fukasaku, who was gathering other major toad figures for a wedding ceremony between two young toads. Come on, you guys know how my wife gets when someone is late for something she believes is important," she heard her husband Fukasaku speak to the other toads. Her fellow toads groaned, knowing all too well that she got very nasty to people if they run 1 second late for something. They entered the well-taken care of garden, which had been made to look like the Garden of Eden, that one of the many old books from before the great calamities occurred that the toads had stored away. Just then Jiraiya appeared with a young boy over his left shoulder and a ninjutsu in his right hand. "Jiraiya, who is this?" asked Shima with great concern, as Jiraiya never brought anyone to the mountain with him. The sole exception was his apprentice Minato Namikaze, but that was years ago. This was Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Jiraiya spoke in a solemn tone. "You mean he's dead?" the great toad sage exclaimed in great alarm, as the prophecy that he had given to Jiraiya years ago was now in jeopardy of being destroyed. "No, but the Uzumaki and Namikaze lines are dead. He is now Naruto Hayabusa," Jiraiya stated in defeat. "Did you say just Hayabusa?" the elder toad asked, as Jiraiya, with great alarm, still as if what Jiraiya said was true, then they had to notify the Dragon Clan. Jiraiya nodded his head, signifying that he had indeed said Hayabusa. Fukasaku turned towards Gamabunta, who just nodded and disappeared with a poof of smoke, taking the sword with him as proof that he was telling the truth. Jiraiya turned towards Fukasaku to speak, but Fukasaku beat him to it. "I will carry your request to train him over to the Dragon Clan Council, Jiraiya. Now you must leave before the dragon leader arrives and sees you." The elderly toad spoke softly to the toad sage. Jiraiya nodded in understanding before teleported back to Konoha. He knew that he was needed more in Konoha than he was needed here. So with a heavy heart he departed from the mount, just in time to hear a mighty roar of the dragon leader. Sarutobi was currently doing his ridiculously large amount of paperwork in complete silence. Despite the fact that all paperwork was the bane of any leader's life, it was a necessary evil that needed to be done in order to avoid all the ninja in the village from starting a riot over not receiving their salaries. The fact that he was also doing all of the civilian council's paperwork as well didn't help Sarutobi's bad mood. The only reason why he was doing the civilians' council paperwork was because if he didn't, then the work would get done and the village would have gone bankrupt years ago. God's damn lazy civilians. Sarutobi thought to himself as finished the first half of the civilian council's paperwork that involved the various trading and artisans' guilds. Sarutobi stopped at the next piece of paper when he noticed something of interest to him. What do we have here? Sarutobi asked himself. We, the sovereign leaders of the hidden village, Konohagakure of the land of fire, grant Sasuke Uchiha the right of complete access to the Hokage's private jutsu vault. Furthermore, he is to be given the Namikaze estate along with all of its contents. All Hidden Leaf Shinobi, this includes the students in the Ninja Academy, are to train him in the ways of their private jutsu collections when he, Sasuke Uchiha, orders them to do so. Finally, Naruto Hayabusa is to be declared a missing ninja who is to be executed on sight for murder of the former head of the Uchiha clan and for abandoning the village during a time of crisis. Sarutobi read the paper, the key features of the documents getting angrier as he read more of the legislation that the civilian council was trying to have passed. How dare they proclaim themselves the sovereign rulers of the Hidden Leaf Village? Sarutobi yelled out in anger. His angry yelling quickly caused his 4 personal Anbu bodyguard to appear in his office with swords at the ready. What is it, Hokage Dono? The leader of the group asked with great alarm, as it's something very big to anger the god of the shinobi like he was right now. Squirrel, I want you to send a message to the fire daimyo that request permission to remove the civilian council from power as well as its disbandment on the grounds of treason and that they are a threat to the safety of humanity in general. Sarutobi ordered to the leader of Hokage bodyguard detachment. Hi Hokage Dono. The squirrel-masked Anbu responded before he disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Is there anything else, Hokage Dono? A female Anbu with demonic-like face mask asked with great concern. No, that is all, Anbu, you are dismissed. Sarutobi answered as he tried to calm himself down. The remaining Anbu agents quickly disappeared in a swirl of leaves, allowing Sarutobi to sit back down in his chair and took a break from all of the paperwork that he was currently doing until a small puff of clouds appeared in front of him. Sarutobi looked down to see a small toad was in front of him with a scroll in its mouth, meaning that his student Jiraiya had sent him something important. He took the scroll from Toad that simply disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Sarutobi simply looked at the message that read, "He's coming home soon. Be ready for anything." Sarutobi smiled at the thought of adopted grandson was finally coming home where he rightfully belonged after 10 long years. I wonder how much you have changed, Naruto-kun. Sarutobi thought to himself as he made a simple hand gesture to summon a messenger ninja. In a cloud of smoke, a ninja dress in a red top with black pants with the daimyo's personal seal on his back of his tunic appeared in front of Sarutobi, kneeling in respect. What is it, Hokage-sama? The messenger asked with curiosity evident in his voice. Summon the clan and ninja councils for an emergency meeting involving a code Omega Black. Sarutobi ordered as he got up from his chair. Consider it done, Lord Hokage. The messenger responded before he disappeared. 30 minutes later, both the ninja and the clan councils was sitting in the council chambers talking amongst themselves, with many wondering why the Hokage had called for a meeting while others were wondering where the civilian council was. When the Hokage appeared, they all stood up in respect and in symbolism to the title of Hokage. They sat back down when Sarutobi took his seat at the head of the room, which showed that he was the unquestionable leader of the Hidden Leaf Village. All right, this meeting may now begin. Sarutobi spoke as he banged a gavel. The reason why this meeting is taking place is the fact that Naruto is returning to the village soon. So what, Lord Hokage, that no reason to call for this meeting of this importance? Hiyashi Hyuga commented in annoyance over being summoned over such a trivial thing like the return of the former Jinchuriki. Well, this may true in normal cases, Hiyashi. The fact of the matter is Naruto is the heir of 3 clans. Sarutobi countered. Hiyashi chose to remain silent as now he saw why the Hokage had ordered this meeting. The fact that a single child was the last of 3 clans was unheard of. Even during the Shinobi Wars, it was forbidden to have the entire clan become part of the Shinobi force, leaving a sole male heir or 4 women who pregnate with the next generation in case of the unthinkable occurring. What clans are we talking about here, Lord Hokage? Choza Akamichi, the current head of the Akamichi clan, asked out of curiosity. He is the heir to the Uzumaki, Namikaze, and the Hayabusa clans, Sarutobi evenly spoke as he watched the clan heads break out in discussion on what to do with Naruto. All three clan names were well known for different reasons. However, Danzo, who was sitting in quietly, seethed at the fact that Naruto was outside of his reach once more. He just had to make do with the boy's future children instead. Hiyashi stood up, causing all the other clan heads to immediately quiet down in order to hear the Hyuga head. Lord Hokage, I motion that we place Naruto under the Clan Restoration Act immediately upon his return, Hiyashi requested. I see. Is there a second for this motion? Sarutobi asked. Shikaku Nara simply raised his hand in support with his eyes closed, not caring what he just did. Alright then, motion pass. All those in favor of placing Naruto Hayabusa under the Clan Restoration Act? Sarutobi asked. Everyone raised their hands in favor, causing Sarutobi some discomfort as they basically condemned Naruto to the life as sperm donor while a group of 10 women were to become baby makers. He knew that it was a necessary evil in today's world, but it was always a tragedy to see it happen. Alright, it is settled then. Naruto Hayabusa is be placed under the Clan Restoration Act. This meeting is adjourned. Sarutobi stated, banging his gavel, ending the meeting. Come home soon, Naruto-kun. Sarutobi thought to himself as he watched the clan heads and the shinobi council leave the chamber. On the main road to Konoha, 3 figures were currently walking on the dirt road. One was the legendary self-proclaimed super pervert Jiraiya of the Sennin. Next to him was a figure of a young man who was wearing a sleeveless all-black ninja suit. Just use what Ryu Hayabusa wears in Ninja Gaiden 3 for Naruto. With the ninjutsu that changed his life for the better strapped onto his back. So are you excited to be returning home, Naruto? Jiraiya asked the young man next to him. You mean, am I excited to be returning to the place that shunned and abused me for something not under my control? The answer to that is no, I am not. Naruto responded in a cold tone. Jiraiya let out a sigh of misery. Despite Jiraiya's many attempts to convince Naruto that his parents truly did love him, Naruto flat out refused to view them as his parents but as the people simply sired and birthed him. When he had learned that his own father, the Yondaime, had been the one to seal the Kyuubi into him on the night of the attack, Naruto had nearly gone on a murderous rampage across the elemental nations. Thankfully for Jiraiya and a lot of innocent bystanders, Momiji managed to calm him down. Speaking of Momiji, Jiraiya turned to look at the woman who was standing on Naruto's right side. He still couldn't believe that she had been around before the Great Calamites. She was wearing a white form-fitting shinobi shozoku with a red shirt underneath it. She was spent the most time with Naruto at the hidden home of the dragons, training him in the sacred arts of the dragon ninja. While Jiraiya may be a lot of things blind and stupid were not on the list. He could tell that the both of them cared deeply for each other, but the two lovebirds refused to see it. Now, Naruto-kun, don't be too harsh on Jiraiya, he was merely asking you a question. Momiji spoke up in defense of the Toad Sennin. Very well, Momiji Haim. Naruto submissively spoke to Momiji, who was blushing at the suffix that Naruto used. Jiraiya had to stiffen a perverted giggle as he just wanted to pull out his notepad and jot down several ideas that had sprung into his head for his next bestseller. Jiraiya-san, I do hope that you aren't planning to write down something about me and Naruto now, were you? Momiji asked in an overly sweet tone as she released her killer intent at the sage. Jiraiya quickly shook his head while sweating profusely in fear of the dragon Kunoichi as he remembered what happened the last time he used her in one of his books. She had literally beaten him to within an inch of his mortal life. While his fellow Sennin Tsunade had done the same thing when he peeped on her when she first got her legendary chest, Momiji however had gone beyond that and nearly castrated him with a rusty and dull kunai knife when he tried to crawl away from her in order to save himself. He was lucky that Naruto happened to walk in at that moment. Good, because we don't want a repeat of what happened last time you did that, now do we? Momiji asked, smiling. Jiraiya just dumbly nodded his head in agreement as he really didn't want a repeat. How can a girl such as Momiji be so evil and cruel in one moment but gentle and caring in the next? Jiraiya thought to himself as he walked alongside Naruto in perfect sync in the hopes of an emergency he could use him as a shield against Momiji. He looked up and saw that they were almost to the hidden village as they the top of the fortress walls that protected the village from outside threats such as foreign armies. After several more minutes of walking, the group found themselves at the village checkpoint that was manned by 2 Chunin shinobi who quickly waved them through, much to the anger of several merchants who had been waiting in line for entry. Alright, why don't you guys have a look around while I report to the Hokage? I'm sure a lot has changed since you left the village, Naruto. Jiraiya suggested, hoping that the two would leave him alone for a while. In truth, he was going to report to his old sensei first to announce their return, then go off to nearby hot springs and do some research before he returned to the two Hayabusa ninja. Very well, Jiraiya-san, I trust you enough to report back to the Hokage and not go off to conduct research, Naruto answered back as Momiji grabbed him by the arm and dragged him away to see how the village changed since his departure. Unbeknownst to the splitting group, a single man was crouching in the trees nearby. The man watched with blood-red eyes as the dragon ninja was dragged off by a woman. He snarled at the sight of person who murdered the previous clan head of the Uchiha clan and got away unpunished. Genshin Dono must be informed at once of the return of the demon brat. The man thought to himself as he shunshined to the Uchiha district. After Fugaku's death at the hands of the demon brat, Genshin Uchiha had approached Danzo and the Shinobi Council about his knowledge of their plans to eliminate the Uchiha clan before it could launch its military coup d'état against the Fire Daimyo and the third Hokage. He offered to help kill off the disloyal clan members in exchange that they spared the Uchiha clan from any punishment and keep what had transpired a secret. The village elders quickly agreed to the offer as they knew that Genshin was a man of his word and a skilled shinobi for an Uchiha who never awoke his Sharingan eyes, which was proven when he was considered for the position of Yondaime Hokage but ultimately losing out to Minato. If they didn't agree to his offer, then there was a very strong possibility of a full-scale civil war would break out between Konoha and the Uchiha clan. They were eager to avoid as much unnecessary bloodshed as possible. On the night that Itachi was execute the traitorous portion of the clan, Genshin secretly handed him a list of civilian Uchiha that were in on the coup. In the aftermath, when the rest of the clan learned of his actions, some of the more diehard militant members had denounced him as a traitor, but the vast majority supported his actions. The spy quickly landed in front of Genshin's personal house. It was extremely small compared to the other house that his fellow Uchiha lived in. The house was a simple single-story building that had 5 rooms. Genshin, however, had a beautiful garden that was taken care of by several gardeners of the Yamanaka clan. The spy simply walked into the building and took notice that his lord was talking to his sister Makoto Uchiha. "My lord, I have something to report." The spy spoke as he bowed while he seized on the floor in front of his master. "What is it that is so important that you interrupt me while I have guest inside my house?" Genshin demanded from his agent. "My lord, your predecessor's killer has returned to the village," the spy faithfully answered. Genshin politely nodded his head in acknowledgement before dismissing the spy from his presences. He turned to his sister. He knew that she had been one of his strongest backers during the debate over who would replace her late bastard of a husband as clan head. Just thinking of the deceased man made Genshin seethe in anger. He remembered all the times that he came to visit his nephews, he would find that Makoto was wearing makeup over bruises that Fugaku had inflicted. So when he learned of the former clan head's demise, he was practically wanted to jump for joy but restrained himself in order to comfort his nephew Sasuke over the demise of his father. Genshin simply got up and went to his room to retrieve his long sword katana. He needed to personally do battle with the young man as he promised the clan elders to avenge Fugaku's death. "Please excuse me, dear sister, but I must take care of some important clan business that just came up." Genshin apologized to his younger sister. Makoto simply nodded her head in understanding that he needed to handle this situation immediately in order to maintain the appearance of a strong leader. He smiled at her, which was something that he rarely did even as a child, before leaving his house to deal with the matter personally. Jiraiya giggled with perverted joy as he ran off to meet up with his sensei. He had found a gold mine of inspiration in the park earlier in the form of 2 kunoichi making out like there was no tomorrow as he walked towards Hokage Tower. He had received several angry letters from his editor for being so far behind schedule, but he couldn't do anything about as he had 7 dragons monitoring him at all times, thus preventing him from sneaking out to conduct his research. "Maybe now I can get back to work on my next masterpiece," Jiraiya thought to himself as reached the Hokage Tower. As he reached the Hokage's office, the secretary quickly waved him through as she quickly recognized who he was despite her being a civilian. Jiraiya silently walked in like any normal person would, as Sarutobi was very adamant about it. In fact, the only 2 people who ignored that rule. The first was Kakashi Hitaki, with him sending a shadow clone that disappears after it receives the Hokage's orders. The other person was Anko Mitarashi, the former apprentice of his traitorous teammate Orochimaru, who had the reputation of breaking the window as she entered the room from the balcony. Putting the thoughts of those two aside, Jiraiya approached the Hokage, who was working diligently on the very large stack of paperwork. "Sensei, you got a moment?" Jiraiya asked his former teacher. "Ah, Jiraiya-kun, glad you have arrived. Grab a stack of paper and give me some help," Sarutobi ordered, not looking up from his work. Jiraiya sighed and did what he was told. It was no use trying to get out of work when his sensei ordered you to do it. "So Jiraiya, tell me, how is Naruto?" Sarutobi asked, lifting his head away from his paperwork. "He is doing fine for the most part. His skills are extremely impressive for someone his age. He is a master swordsman who far surpasses anyone, including the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. His speed is on par with Maida Guy without his weights on." Jiraiya spoke like it was no big deal. "Very impressive for someone like him to be that skilled at such a young age. You're skilled a ninja trainer, Jiraiya," Sarutobi commented, not knowing the truth. "Actually, all I got the chance to teach him was chakra control and some of the just you the academy teaches, Sarutobi-sensei," Jiraiya admitted to his old teacher. Sarutobi's head shot up in surprise by this new information. The very idea that Naruto received most of his training from someone other than Jiraiya, who was the legendary Sannin of the Toads, was downright insulting to Sarutobi. "I tried teaching Naruto his parents' various techniques. At first he was learning all of them eagerly. But when I had accidentally slipped that Minato and Kushina were his parents, he flat out refused to continue learning their justice," Jiraiya sadly reported. It had been his greatest hope that Naruto would continue his father's legacy. But Naruto would have none of it, as he had publicly denounced and disowned as his parents. Jiraiya for months tried to convince Naruto that he was insulting their memory by refusing to continue their legacy, but it was to no avail. Naruto wouldn't budge from his decision. "What, are you telling me that Naruto has disowned his family?" Sarutobi yelled out in anger. Jiraiya simply nodded his head in silence, confirming his worst fears. He didn't really care about the fact that he disowned Kushina, as the woman had tried to kill her own flesh and blood out of the belief that the demon had taken over her baby's body, despite the fact that she was the deceased demon's previous jailer. But disowning Minato, however, was a whole different ballgame. "Continue your report," Sarutobi ordered in an authoritative voice. "However, Naruto's ninpo arts more than make up for his lack of jutsus," Jiraiya spoke in a quiet tone. The dragons had told him after he first spotted Naruto performing ninpo in training that the various ninpo arts were the basis of modern-day ninjutsu. "How so, Jiraiya? I would think that the versified arsenal of jutsu would better equip Naruto for the life of the shinobi," Sarutobi asked curiously. These ninpo arts greatly interested him, as it almost sounded like magic. Anything that sounded unique was almost always a great boon for the Leaf Village. In fact, Sarutobi could remember a handful of times when unique ability or item had been harmful to the village. While he only knows 3 ninpo and is in the process of learning a 4th one, the 3 ninpo spells that he does know easily surpass a triple S-class jutsu. Jiraiya stated with awe in his voice as he remembered the first time he witnessed Naruto use one in battle right in front of him to deal with several spider fiends that had ambushed them. No matter how many times Jiraiya saw Naruto perform one, he would still be in awe of it. "What rank do you think Naruto is at right now, Jiraiya?" Sarutobi asked, as he needed to know how to work with Naruto. "I would put around a high Jonin to low Hokage level strength, sensei," Jiraiya spoke, not knowing that he dropped a massive bombshell. "Who on Kami's green earth trained him to be at that level?" Sarutobi asked, in sheer awe of Naruto's skill level for some his age. While there were several famous ninjas such as Itachi Uchiha and Kakashi Hitaki who were considered geniuses and prodigies for their quick entries into regular shinobi forces from Konoha Defense Forces at such a young age, they had the advantages of an elite shinobi academy with veteran Jonin training them in the finer skills and the ways of the shinobi. The fact that both of them came from all shinobi family only increased their already massive advantage compared to the other academy students of their time. Naruto didn't have that type of opportunity, so for him to be at that skill level was extremely impressive and worrying. The dragons trained him alongside the last of the original dragon ninja. Jiraiya spoke with uncertainty in his voice, not knowing how his former teacher would react. Sarutobi was in shock. A single dragon nin had survived the great calamities and lived on to the present day. What's more, they had trained Naruto personally in their clan's traditions. Now this was both a blessing and a curse at the same time. It was a blessing as Naruto now knew about his heritage from a first-hand source instead of various books written over the centuries since the great calamities from second-hand accounts. It was a curse at the same time as the new Hayabusa clan was now be more difficult to mold into a clan that would only serve the interest of the Hidden Leaf village. Sarutobi let out a painful sigh at his current dilemma. While he did view Naruto like he was an adopted grandson, he was still the Hokage, the absolute ruler of the village. Therefore, he was required by his posture to place the interests and welfare of the people of Konoha and by extension the Land of Fire before any individual. Hence why he would purposely delay Naruto's protection unit by several seconds or prevented them from intervening unless the angry mob was going to land the killing blow when Naruto originally lived in the Hidden Leaf. Was it cruel to do that to an innocent child? Yes. Was it necessary to do it? Yes. Did Sarutobi regret doing it? No, as it was for the greater good of Konoha and he would do it again if he had to. Tell me something, Jiraiya-kun, how would Naruto react if I made him a genin? Sarutobi asked, hoping to figure out how to handle this situation better. Quite frankly, sensei, that wouldn't be fair to the other genin as Naruto has more combat experience and mission experience than all of them. Hell, he criticized our ninja academy when I explained it to him. Jiraiya explained to the older shinobi. Now Sarutobi was furious at Naruto. How dare he insult one of the last standing legacies of his sensei, the Shodem and the Nidaime Hokages. Sure, it wasn't the same as when it was first founded in the early days of the village due to the need for funds elsewhere, but it was still, as far as Sarutobi knew, the premier ninja academy out of all the hidden villages in the elemental nations, quickly deciding that Naruto needed a demonstration of the academy ability to produce high-quality ninja. Jiraiya, when you go see him, tell him to report to the Ninja Academy room 131 for his team assignment tomorrow. Sarutobi ordered before resuming his paperwork. Hi, sensei. Jiraiya answered back before shining away to notify Naruto of the Hokage's decision on what to do with him. Naruto was walking down the halls of the Ninja Academy with some frustration fueling his steps. He would have preferred to be anywhere else but the academy at the moment. The only reason why he was even there was due to the insistence of Momiji, who was determined to have him socialize with people in his own age group. Flashback: Naruto and Momiji were sitting at one of the various restaurants that littered the village, enjoying a simple meal together while waiting for Jiraiya to show himself. Momiji watched as Naruto ate his meal in utter silence. It was one of the few times that Naruto ever took off his mask anymore. They were both enjoying themselves until the Toad Sage appeared right next to Naruto with a concerned look. "What do you want, Jiraiya-sama?" Naruto politely asked as he continued eating his meal, somewhat surprised by the legendary ninja's sudden appearance. He kinda of figured that Jiraiya would be off conducting his so-called research at the local hot springs and wouldn't see him again for another couple of hours. As soon as he spoke the Toad Sage's name, the people around him started whispering to each other. It wasn't every day you got to see one of the legendary senin in the village. "You are to report to the Academy Room 131 tomorrow afternoon for your team assignment," Jiraiya cautiously answered in a hushed tone, not wanting to be overheard by the villagers. He was afraid of what Naruto's reaction would be towards the Sandaime's decision on having him join a team of newly minted genin. Jiraiya knew that Naruto didn't really enjoy being treated like he was still a child, despite the fact that he was in his mid-teens and had a dozen of high-profile missions under his belt. It was a lesson that he learned the hard way and was still recovering from. This better be some type of sick joke or a mistake, Jiraiya, because those so-called ninjas that this village produces are nothing more than disposable cannon fodder at best. Naruto spoke to the Toad Sage, his voice filled with clear annoyance at the Hokage's decision. The villagers quickly began to angrily mutter amongst themselves after hearing Naruto's comment. It was clear that they weren't used to hearing someone criticizing their defenders. However, Naruto didn't pay them any mind. He had long since learned to ignore people's ignorant comments about him when he was growing up in the village before being rescued by Muramasa. He gave a quick glance towards Momiji to gauge her reaction. She had a similar look of displeasure marring her beautiful face. "Sorry kid, but the Hokage's decision is final. But look at it this way, you can show them what it means to be a true ninja. You have the experience of being a ninja out in the field while they have the proper training, so it's mutually beneficial for both sides." Jiraiya defensively spoke to his part-time student. While he understood the fact that the education was nothing like the education that he had received back when he was at the academy, it was still the school that witnessed the rise of many infamous S-ranked shinobi such as Itachi Uchiha. so he felt obliged to defend its honor from the accurate assessment Naruto gave it. Naruto, however, looked less than pleased by Jiraiya's statement and was ready to point out that he was still considered a foreign ninja by the village's charter despite the fact that he was born in the village. However, before Naruto could speak out, Jiraiya received help from a very unlikely source. "I'll make sure Naruto-kun shows up tomorrow afternoon, Jiraiya-san." Momiji intervened before she took a deep drink from a cup of jasmine tea. The two men looked at her both in shock with a mixture of emotions written on their faces. Naruto felt betrayed by his longtime friend, but then he took notice that she was looking at him with a look in her eyes that they'll talk later. Jiraiya let out a victorious smile at the sudden support by the dragon Kunoichi. Knowing that he was going to lose no matter what he did, Naruto let out a sigh of defeat. She was easily the only person other than Muramasa who could persuade him into do something. "Fine, I'll go, but you owe me one, Momiji." Naruto relented to his fellow dragon ninja. End of flashback. After several minutes of searching the entire first-floor corridor, Naruto found the proper room and opened it to find that a chunin with a scar across the bridge of his nose was holding a clipboard as if he was reading off something. The entire class plus the chunin instructor stopped what they were doing to look at him with some curiosity. After a brief few seconds, most of the girls in the class diverted their attention to a brooding boy with a hairstyle that looked like the rear end of a duck, while the guys continued to stare at him as if they were trying to figure out if he was a threat to them. Well, at the very least the guys are taking the path of the shinobi seriously. Naruto dejectedly thought to himself as a massive sweat drop formed on the back of his head. The chunin instructor let out a couple of coughs to get everyone's attention back on him. Naruto turned his attention to the chunin instructor. Excuse me, but who are you, young man?" the chunin instructor asked. "Forgive me for my rudeness, Chunin-san. My name is Naruto Hayabusa and I was ordered to come here by the Hokage for my team placement." Naruto apologized as he bowed to the chunin instructor. The chunin instructor quickly looked through his notes and found the stranger's name and file. He quickly skimmed through it and found the teen's name along with a brief history of his education. The chunin was shocked to learn that Naruto had been trained under guidance of one of the legendary Sennin. Hell, the kid had completed several A-rank missions that were borderline S-ranked without so much as a scratch. "Very well then, Naruto-san, please take a seat somewhere and wait for your team to be announced." The chunin spoke politely. Almost immediately some of the students began to complain about the newcomer's sudden admittance into the program. However, most weren't willing to make their displeasure heard for the most part. "Wait minute, Iruka-sensei, how come he gets a free pass, when we had to go through the academy for 6 years? A boy with 2 red fang tattoos on his face and a small white puppy on top of his head demanded, clearly upset at what just transpired in front of him. "Because Kiba, he was the apprentice to Jiraiya of the Sannin, so he qualifies as a genin. Now sit down and shut up." Iruka yelled out in anger with his head expanding 10 times its normal size. The class began whispering as the idea of having the student of the legendary Jiraiya possible being on their squad became very appealing. Naruto quickly took notice of a kid with the hair that looked like a duck's behind had suddenly began glaring at him with his black soulless eyes full of jealousy and hatred. Quite frankly, he could care less about the boy's opinion about him, but decided to keep an eye on him for the time being just in case. "If it's all right with you, Iruka-san, I would prefer to stand," Naruto told Iruka. Iruka quickly nodded before going back to his speech that Naruto unintentionally interrupted previously. "Team placement is the same in canon, so I'm skipping that part." Sakura was pacing up and down in front of the instructor's desk with growing anger at extreme tardiness of her new sensei. Sasuke was quietly brooding in the corner while secretly plotting the deaths of his older brother and his uncle for revenge and for more power respectively, while Naruto was practicing calligraphy in order to pass the time. Naruto had been introduced to it along with several other hobbies as a means to give him an outlet for his energy during his stay at Mount Ryu. It was also a practical way of helping him learn how to make seals that could store all of his extra weapons in the future. Finally, after 30 minutes of non-stop pacing, Sakura lost little control of her temper she had and let out a loud screeched out, "Where the hell is this guy?" Nobody answered as they were too busy to pay attention until Naruto's head shot up as he sensed his new sensei approaching the classroom. Whoever they were, they're highly skilled at concealing themselves. The classroom door opened, with a man's head sticking through the doorway. He had gravity-defying silver hair that was all leaning to one side, and a mask covering his face up to the bridge of his nose. His ninja headband was covering his left eye, while his right held an uninterested, bored look. "You're late," Sakura yelled out, causing the three guys to instinctively close their ears to avoid becoming deaf. Kakashi gave the three younger ninja a quick look over as if he was trying to find something unique about them. After a few seconds he gave up. "My first impression of you guys, I think that you guys are completely boring. Besides, what can you do anyway, Pinky?" The Jonin simply responded and insulting his new students to gauge their reactions towards him. Sakura simply huffed and turned away, still agitated at Kakashi for being late. Sasuke simply glared at him for his insult and disrespect towards a member of the elite Uchiha clan. Naruto simply went back to practicing his calligraphy without caring as to what Kakashi just said. "Let's try to get to know each other better. Meet me on the roof in 10 minutes, he ordered before disappearing. Sasuke and Sakura quickly got up to follow him, not caring that they left their teammate behind. Naruto simply sighed as he put away his things before getting up and shushined to the roof, surprising Kakashi a little. "An impressive skill to have for someone your age. Perhaps you're not as boring as your teammates as I thought." Kakashi spoke with an uninterested tone. Naruto silently sat down and waited with Kakashi for Sakura and Sasuke. He tried to figure out the man sitting in front of him. He could tell that Kakashi was a skilled ninja, but he couldn't help but notice that he had a aurora of sadness surrounding him. Naruto shrugged it off and simply figured that it involved the man's life as a ninja as it came with the job. It was 5 minutes later when the rest of the team appeared. "So glad you could join us. Please take a seat next to your teammate so we can begin." Kakashi motioned towards the silent dragon ninja. They did what they were told, but they put as much distance between them and Naruto for different reasons. Sasuke wanted to keep an eye on his fellow genin that shared the same name of the bastard who murdered his father and allowed his weak uncle to come to power, while Sakura was scared shitless by Naruto's sheer presences. "Okay," Kakashi started, "how about we start off by telling a little bit about ourselves?" "What do you want us to talk about?" Sakura asked, not getting at what Kakashi was suggesting. "Well, how about your name, likes, dislikes, hobbies, and dreams for the future?" Kakashi explained to the pink-haired Kunoichi. "Can you go first to show us how it's done, sensei?" Sakura asked as she tried to leave a good first impression. "Is she really as smart as people say she is? Why would you need a demonstration for something so easy?" Kakashi thought to himself. Kakashi sighed and started to speak, ending with his traditional eye smile. "Very well, my name is Kakashi Hitaki. There are a few things that I like and dislike. I have some hobbies, and I don't really have a dream for the future. See easy." The three younger ninja gave off a massive sweat drop at how their new sensei just explained how they were supposed to explain. "All he told us was his name," they all thought together. Kakashi must have guessed what they were thinking and quickly decided to move on. "Now that we got that out of the way, you with the pink hair, you can start first." Kakashi spoke, directing everyone's attention away from him. Sakura sat up a bit and cleared her throat. "My name is Sakura Haruno. My likes are," looks at Sasuke and blushes. "My dislikes are, pig, freaks of nature, and those who try to upstage Sasuke-kun." Gives a heated glare towards Naruto. "My hobbies are," again looks at Sasuke and blushes harder. "My dreams for the future are," looks at Sasuke again and was on the verge of squealing. Both Kakashi and Naruto sweat dropped at this and thought, "She's nothing more than a fangirl, great." Kakashi decided it was best to move on. "Okay, now you with the black duck butt hair." Sasuke simply glared at the Jonin for his insult, then started to speak about his most favorite subject, himself. "My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I have no likes and dislike practically everything. My only hobby is training so I can get stronger. My dream, no, my ambition is to find and kill a certain man by any means necessary and succeed my uncle as the rightful clan head." I was right, he has an Avenger complex. Kakashi thought to himself, knowing that he was going to have his work cut out if this team passed his test. Naruto, however, let out a silent, painful groan of misery. He was not looking forward to be working with either of them in the future. "I have to work with these people? The two of them are more likely going to get me killed than anything." Naruto thought to himself, not liking the fact that his teammates were either a worthless fangirl or a self-centered brat. The fact that Sasuke was willing to go to any lengths to get power made Naruto weary even more around the Uchiha. He had heard of the Uchiha clan's reputation outside of the Land of Fire, and most of it wasn't good despite the best efforts of their new clan head Genshin. "Sasuke, you're so cool," Sakura spoke out like the fangirl that she was. "That just leaves you, Mr. Mysterious Ninja." Kakashi spoke to the final member of his team. Naruto just sighed as he knew that he was not going to like this. He really didn't have people skills as he had only contact with a few people during his time with the dragons. "My name is Naruto Hayabusa. That's all you need to know for now." Naruto calmly spoke to his new teammates. Kakashi was quietly thinking over what he just heard from his third student. While he was able to do some research on his first two potential students the day before and found out of everything about them. Naruto, on the other hand, was nothing short of an enigma. He had disappeared from the village when he was merely 5 years old, only reappearing yesterday. So any information the village had on him was out of date. Out of the three of them, Naruto is probably the most normal as a ninja can get. However, the fact that he didn't really reveal any useful information means he either doesn't trust us or he likes to keep to himself. Kakashi thought to himself. He really couldn't blame him, as Naruto's childhood abuse at the hands of the villagers had probably left a deep hatred of the village. The idea that his sensei's only son despised the very village his father saved was slightly depressing. Snapping out of his thoughts, he returned his attention to his students. "Okay, now that we established who we are and what we like and don't like, it's about time to start the Genin final exam." That surprised the two newly minted Genin, as they believed that they already were ninja as they had graduated from the Ninja Academy. Naruto narrowed his golden green eyes in suspicion. "What are you talking about, sensei? We already passed the final exam," a confused Sakura said. Sasuke was a bit unsure himself about what Kakashi meant, but believed that it didn't really affect him. He was confident that even if he failed to pass the test, the civilian council would just force the Hokage to make him a shinobi, as he was a member of the elite Uchiha clan. "The final exam you took was for passing the academy. It was to see if you actually capable of becoming a ninja. The actual test is nowhere near as easy as memorizing the answers to a few questions and performing few simple jutsu. And if you fail this exam, then you get sent back to the academy. So it's up to you if you want to test yourselves. Come tomorrow at Training Ground 7 at 7 a.m. Make sure not to eat any break feast because you're just going to throw it up," Kakashi commented dismissively. Kakashi then got up and started to walk away before disappearing in a puff of smoke, leaving the three Genin by alone. "I might as well show off a bit to my comrades," Naruto told himself as he got up to leave. He quickly ran and jumped off the building's roof. The two newly minted Genin looked over the edge to see if their teammate was dead, but didn't find him anywhere. They each shrugged, got up and started for home to get some rest. At the council room, Kakashi appeared with the other Jonin who were assigned a Genin team. It was the one part of being assigned as a Jonin instructor he had been dreading. The initial evaluations of the squads before the Genin take the infamous teamwork test. Surrounding them was the Hokage and the various councils of the village. "Ah, Kakashi, I'm so glad that you could be on time for once and not coming in through the window," Sarutobi commented, causing all the Jonin and council that were present to chuckle at his expense. Kakashi gave off a shrug of his shoulders. He knew about his reputation of being extremely tardy for meetings. Hell, he knew about the joke of him being late for his own funeral that people told each other behind his back. "Now then, what can we do with this year's group of Genin hopefuls?" Sarutobi asked the potential Jonin instructors. "Team 8 will be an excellent recon team once Kiba calms down a lot and Hinata is broken out of her shell." Kurenai spoke with an annoyed tone as she put up with fellow Jonin Asuma's smoking. Sarutobi just nodded his head in agreement, as he could understand that the rookie Jonin was going to have her work cut out for her. He also sympathized with the Kunoichi about dealing with headstrong students. "Team 10 looks okay, but they need to work on their teamwork, but other than that they have some potential to become the next Ino Shika trio, Pops," Asuma huffed out to his father. Sarutobi just sighed as his son continued smoking a disgusting cigarette despite the fact that he had been repeatedly told not to while he was in the Hokage Tower. He turned towards the last of the instructors, which happened to be Kakashi, who was already reading an Icha book, much to the ire of most of Kunoichi in the room. "Team 7 is nothing more than a quagmire Hokage dono. Sasuke is perfect for assault once he accepts his teammates as equals, while Sakura would make a perfect combat medic once she's broken out of her fangirlness and trains properly. Naruto, however, is something else entirely. I honestly have no idea as to what he specializes in. It's making me question the reason why he was placed on the team to begin with. Kakashi commented, all the while not looking up from his beloved porn. Sarutobi let out another sigh of annoyance and began to rub the sides of his head to starve off a growing headache. He was hoping that Kakashi was at least able to get at least some useful information about Naruto that could keep him in the village for the time being. At least until they found a more permanent solution. It has always been this village's policy that teamwork is to be focus of our success, and young Naruto needs to learn that if he is to become a true leaf ninja. He commented as he recalled his lessons with the first and second Hokages as a child. Just then everyone heard a snort coming from the clan council. Everyone turned to see that it was the Hayabusa clan representative who was quietly trying to control her laughing. Sume, the clan head of the Inuzuka, snarled at the sudden newcomer's disrespect towards the leader of Konoha. "What's so funny, little girl?" Sume snarled out menacingly, trying to intimidate the outsider. Momiji instantly stopped her controlled laughter. She looked at the clan head with cold eyes of scorn. She had never really liked dogs that much due to the Black Spider clan using ninja hounds against her and fellow dragon ninja in the past. Simple Inuzuka-san. The Hokage's statement goes against the very definition of what it means to be a ninja. Momiji coldly responded while silently leaking out her killer intent. Sume growled at her with growing anger in her throat. It was bad enough that they had to accept this outsider into their ranks as an equal, but now she had the nerve to insult Konoha's way of life and their leader. "I suggest that you calm down, Sume-sama, before Momiji-sama kills you for your stupidity." A gruff voice came from the window. Everyone turned to see Jiraiya sitting in the window, still with a grim expression adorned on his face. "Why should we treat this upstart with any respect? She is not loyal to Konoha and she shouldn't even be on this council to begin with." Danzo spoke bitterly while Homura and Kaharu nodded their heads in agreement. Danzo was a well-known chauvinistic diehard patriot of Konoha and the Land of Fire. He would be damned if he let some foreigner tell him what to do, especially when it was a woman. Because Momiji has the more experience as a ninja than all of us combined, and she is perhaps the only thing that is keeping Naruto from leaving the village altogether. Jiraiya spoke in a serious voice, telling them that he was not joking. The council was unnerved to hear how the heir to 3 clans was more loyal to some woman over his birthplace. Surely the son of the 4th Hokage wouldn't forsake them over some woman or over a few misunderstandings. However, Kaharu remained unconvinced about what her son was telling them. "She looks like she barely in her 20s. How in Kami's green earth is more experienced than us?" Kaharu demanded from her estranged son. She never did accept the idea of him acting like a pervert and wrote those shameful books. While she was proud of the fact that he was a great ninja that everyone in nations knew and feared, his books still brought great shame to her. Despite her youthful appearance as mother, Momiji has been a shinobi since before the great calamities. So she knows what she is doing and saying. Jiraiya spoke politely to his mother as he really didn't want to piss her off like last time. This caused the entire room to break out in discussion at the startling revelations. It took 5 minutes of Sarutobi trying to get things back under control. When everything was under control, Danzo decided to make his voice and opinion heard. "I motion that a dead man seal and a loyalty seal be placed on her and have her be used for a breeding program to give us superior shinobi against our enemies." Danzo spoke in calculating tone. He believed that he was about to have his way for once, as many council members began to nod their heads in agreement. The fact that even his longtime rival seemed to consider it as well made him give a small smirk of victory. "There is no way in the hell will I submit myself to the will of this village or its leaders. If you even think about trying it, I will see to it personally that this ungrateful village is destroyed for impudence and disrespect." Momiji venomously threatened towards Danzo while unleashing the full might of her killer intent into the room. Almost instantly everyone had difficulty breathing by the sheer amount of killer intent. The civilians were either passed out on the ground while the retired shinobi and clan heads struggling to remain awake. "She isn't human," everyone that managed to remain conscious thought as they struggled to breath. Just then Naruto appeared in a flash of blue light. He appeared completely unaffected by the massive amount of killer energy that his fellow dragon ninja was unleashing. "Momiji Haim, you need to stop this right now. You're putting us all in danger of being discovered by the fiends and them." Naruto spoke calmly to his partner. Despite the fact that she's still angry at sheer audacity of the Leaf Village government, she knew that Naruto was right. Momiji began to take deep breaths in order to rein in her temper. You're right, Naruto-kun, I need to keep my temper in check as we are guests here. I will do well to remember that next time, thank you. Momiji spoke gently to her fellow dragon ninja. Naruto just nodded his head in understanding before turning to the rest of the council, and with great disdain in his voice he spoke. You bastards try anything on me or Momiji Haim, I'll fucking kill you regardless of who or what you are, he threatened. Danzo quickly became enraged by the audacity of the village's supposed weapon to make such a threat. He had always disagreed with idea about treating Jinchuriki like they were people. You dare threaten your superiors, beast. We can have you and your comrade killed for your actions, Danzo yelled out in anger. He'll be damned before he let this dragon ninja challenge his authority that he managed to gather over the years under the Hokage's nose. I don't make threats, old man. I only make promises, and for the record, you are not my superior. You are nothing more than a crippled old man who has an inferiority complex. Naruto shot back at Danzo, not intimidated in the least by the old man's threats. Danzo snarled as he tried to use his concealed Sharingan eye to try and influence Naruto's mind into submission. But no matter how chakra he used, it didn't seem to work. That's enough out of both of you, Naruto. You can't just threaten a member of the council, Sarutobi reprimanded. Naruto turned his attention to the Hokage with a hateful glare. Whatever affections that he once had for the old man had long since evaporated during his stay with the dragons. The fact that he was the one being reprimanded for defending his fellow shinobi only deepened that distrust. I wouldn't have to if you kept them on their leashes, Hokage-sama. Naruto spoke bitterly before he shushined out of the room. Jiraiya simply sighed before turning towards Kakashi. He knew that Naruto no longer trusted anyone from Konoha after he learned of what his biological father and mother did to him. When you're done here, Kakashi, meet me on the roof. We need to talk about some things concerning Naruto. Jiraiya spoke before leaving himself. Later, Naruto was mediating at the newly dubbed Hayabusa estate that had once been the home of the fourth Hokage and his wife Kushina Uzumaki as he waited for Momiji to return. He had changed out of his field uniform into his regular workout, which composed of a white tank top that was tucked into a pair of Jonin pants. He had begun working out non-stop as soon as he had gotten home from the council room. He knew that Momiji was going to be upset with him for what he did earlier, but he had to try and intimidate the council so they wouldn't hopefully try anything against them. At least until they found a land to call their own and be able to rebuild the Hayabusa village to its former glory. You know that the Konoha Council is not very happy with you right now for standing up to them. Momiji gently spoke from behind him. I know, Momiji Haim, but they need to think twice before try any against us. Naruto calmly spoke to his lover. He looked at what she was wearing and he liked what he saw. She was wearing nothing more than a black sports bra that did little to cover her D-cup-sized breasts and a pair of matching panties. He was getting hard just by looking at her. I know, love, but they are still mad at you for threatening them. They're just not used to having to deal with someone who's willing to stand up to them after dealing with Sarutobi's weak leadership for so long. Momiji spoke before kissing Naruto on the lips. Naruto gave her a slight smile before getting up and escorting her to the bedroom that held a bed that needed to be broken in. The next day, Naruto was waiting on the bridge that led to the training grounds that would belong to Team 7 if they passed their test. He currently was mediating on what skills he should use against his so-called sensei. He knew that Kakashi had the Sharingan planted in his left eye socket, so any of the jutsu he developed in secret was out of the question, as he knew that Kakashi held the infamous Sharingan in his left eye. Genjutsu was also out due to Naruto's vast amounts of chakra. So that just left the ninja arts of taijutsu and kenjutsu. Just then Sakura and Sasuke appeared over the horizon, walking towards the bridge that they were supposed to meet at. Sasuke had a sneer on his face as he ignored his female companion who was pestering him to go out on a date with her. When will this useless girl learn that she is beneath me? The only reason why she is even allowed in my mere presence is that she is on my team. Sasuke thought to himself as he approached the bridge. He quickly found his father's killer silently meditating against the handrail in a lotus position. Despite his uncle's numerous promises to avenge his father's death, nothing had been done about it besides requesting the shinobi and clan councils to investigate the killing. The case was still going on even after all these years. He clenched his hands in fist and began to shake in anger. This loser dared to challenge the most powerful clan in existence. He shall pay for his defiance. Sasuke thought to himself in reckless anger. He really didn't care about the fact that his teammate had killed his father. Fugaku had shamed himself as well as the Uchiha clan by dying at the hands of a young child who extremely weak after dealing with a major ordeal. Sakura noticed that her one true love was angry for some reason at their third teammate. This was the very same teammate that her mother warned her about when she told him about her team. Flashback, Mom, Dad, I'm home. Sakura shouted as she closed the front door to the family mansion. Her father Kazashi had spent a vast fortune to build their family's estate into what it was today. However, it came with a heavy price as many civilians including shinobi began to openly accuse him of embezzling money from the village's treasury in order to build such a magnificent miniature palace. Her father made the situation even worse by refusing to allow Konoha treasury agents to investigate the family bank accounts, confirming the suspicions of the accusers. That's great, dear. So tell me, what team are you on? Sakura's mother Mebuki asked out curiosity. She silently prayed to Kami that her only daughter was placed on the same team as the young Uchiha heir. She didn't really care for love as it didn't put food on the table. The fact was proven when she married her fat slob of husband Kazashi. Even with him being a wealthy merchant, he was still a poor consolation prize for losing out to the Uzumaki whore who married the Yondaime Hokage. I'm on Team 7 with Sasuke Uchiha and some nobody named Naruto Hayabusa. Sakura spoke with great enthusiasm. Sakura then took notice that her mother was frowning at her. What is it, Mom? She asked with concern. I want you to be very careful around your third teammate, Sakura. Mebuki ordered her only daughter. Why's that, Mother? Sakura asked with worry. Even when she and her team waited for their sensei, the Hayabusa ninja unnerved her greatly for some unknown reason. It got even worse when he spoke, as she had nearly ran away while screaming in fear. The fact that her mother was warning her to stay away from him gave her a good reason to fear him. That boy is nothing more than a demon in human flesh. If you see an opportunity to kill it, or at least wound it to so, you would be doing the world a favor. Mebuki told her impressible daughter before leaving to go supervise the maids who were cooking dinner. End of flashback. Don't you worry, Mother, if deal with this demon if it steps out of line. Sakura thought to herself. Shaw. I'll kill that abomination if it even thinks about hurting Sasuke-kun. Inner Sakura yelled out menacingly. So Team 7 began to wait for Kakashi for several hours, and Naruto began to feel that waiting on Kakashi was going to be extremely common for them in the future if they passed his test. It was around 11 in the afternoon that Kakashi finally showed up. Good afternoon, are you guys ready to take your test? Kakashi asked the would-be ninja. The three genin nodded their heads in agreement. Good. Follow me. Kakashi ordered before walking towards the training ground. Team 7 quickly followed their Jonin instructor into the training ground. They quickly found themselves standing in front of 3 posts with a nearby stone that was covered in names written in kanji. Naruto quickly assumed that it liked the memorial wall that he saw during his training. He quickly put it aside to hear what his would-be sensei instructions were. Your test is to capture one of these bells. The one who doesn't accomplish it under the time limit will go back to academy. Kakashi explained as he pulled out 2 silver bells and tied them to his belt. But sensei, there's only 2 bells. Sakura pointed out the obvious. That is true, Sakura. This means at least one of you will be sent back to the academy after this test. Kakashi lied with an eye smile. I must to get one of those bells. This is a test of love, Sakura proclaimed inside her head. Shaw. Nothing is stopping me from being with Sasuke-kun. Inner Sakura declared as it held out its fist as it yelled. I need to get one of those bells in order to catch up to him. Sasuke thought as began to brood over his plans of vengeance against his brother. Naruto narrowed his eyes slightly as he saw through Kakashi's ploy to cause disunity amongst the team. Nice try, Kakashi, but I know for a fact that one of Konoha's core principles is teamwork and that there has never been a 3-man cell in the history of Konoha. Naruto thought to himself as he recalled Jiraiya's history lessons of the village. You have 2 hours to retrieve one of the bells. Get ready, begin. Kakashi yelled out, beginning the exam. Kakashi watched as Sasuke and Sakura quickly disappeared into the surrounding forest while Naruto just stood his ground staring at him as if he was devising a plan of attack. You know that the test has started, right? He asked the young dragon ninja. I know that the exam has started, just as I know that's there no point in hiding from you, an elite Jonin ninja of one of 5 great shinobi nations. Naruto answered as he reached for his weapons scroll. Kakashi nodded his understanding at what Naruto was getting at. In a moment of arrogance he pulled out his copy of Icha Icha Paradise, thinking that Naruto was nothing more than a minor threat. Naruto simply responded by pulling out a scroll that had the kanji for weapons on it. Kakashi frowned underneath his mask as he watched Naruto open the scroll and summoned a pair of beautiful silver and black katanas. He let out a mournful sigh as he put away his precious orange book. Looks like I'm not going to get any reading done right now, he thought to himself as he prepared to fight his first genin. Omake 1. The death of a book. Kakashi watched as Naruto placed 2 sheathed katanas on his back before drawing out the 2 blades out. However, he didn't feel threatened by the young dragon ninja genin holding to them. Aren't you a little young to be playing with swords? Kakashi smugly asked as he began to read his book. I may be young, but that doesn't mean, Naruto began to speak before he disappeared. I'm not a threat. He finished speaking as he reappeared behind Kakashi as he sheathed the 2 katanas. As soon as Kakashi heard the sheaths click from connecting to the handguard on the 2 swords, the upper part of his book fell to the ground. Kakashi stared in horror as he looked at the remains of his autographed copy of Icha Icha Paradise. 30 minutes later, Kakashi, wearing an all-black outfit, was silently crying over a small grave that had a small tombstone that read, "Here lies the beloved orange book of Kakashi Hitaki, cut down before its time." Naruto could only sweat drop at the sad sight of a full-grown man crying over the loss of his porn. I kinda feel bad for destroying his book now, Naruto thought to himself as he watched his sensei cry about how it wasn't the book's time to go. Without hesitation, Naruto charged at the Cyclops Jonin with the desire to kill him, or at the very least maim him. Thankfully Kakashi managed to dodge the attack, but only barely, as Naruto managed to cut the Jonin's flak jacket with the very tips of his twin katanas in his attempt to bisect the man. Kakashi stared at his ruined jacket with a stunned look. Out of all the genin hopefuls he had dealt with, not one had seriously ever tried to kill him. It looks like Naruto playing for keeps in this exam. If this keeps up, I might have to use some of the chakra gates or even bring out my Sharingan eye to even out the playing field, Kakashi mentally told himself. In the blink of an eye, Naruto disappeared, leaving behind a blue afterimage in his previous place. Kakashi immediately pulled out 2 kunai knives and got into a defensive position with his back against a tree. His senses were working overtime trying to locate the missing genin. But even with his chakra-enhanced senses, he couldn't locate his sensei's son if his life depended on it, and at the moment it was. Suddenly the silver-haired Cyclops swung his right arm. A loud clang was heard in the surrounding area as steel met steel, followed by the sounds of metal slowly cracking from large amounts of pressure. Even Itachi wasn't this skilled at his age. Just what the hell is he? Kakashi thought in a panicked state as his kunai knife started to break in 2 from the force that Naruto was applying to it with his katana. He threw out a leg sweep in order to trip up the younger man, or at least break up the blade lock. Naruto quickly jumped out of the way, landing a few feet away from the Jonin. He quickly put away the twin katana swords and pulled out a kusarigama before he started swinging the metal-weighted ball above his head. Kakashi for his part remained alert and on guard. While he couldn't follow the metal ball in the air even if he used his Sharingan eye, he could tell if Naruto was going to attack by the way his wrist moved. In a flash, Kakashi rolled to the left, barely avoiding a flying metal ball the size of a large walnut aimed at his head. It was obvious that Naruto specialized in weapons and he was an expert in using them. I must say, Naruto, I would never have taken you for a weapons specialist given your large chakra reserves. It seems like a waste of your talents, if you ask me, Kakashi commented with some surprise as he moved a few feet back from the black-clad shinobi for some more breathing room. It seemed like Naruto had chosen a path that didn't seem to fit with his natural skills. Kakashi knew that he would have his work cut out for him if he passed the team. It was going to be hard enough trying to convince Sasuke to accept his teammates as equals. Harder still was the task of breaking Sakura out of her fangirlness for said Uchiha and focus on her career. But trying to get Sensei's son to adopt or at least accept Konoha's policy towards ninjutsu was going to be downright impossible. I was always taught to use any weapon that my enemies could possibly use against me, so in the event I'm fighting against said weapons I would know how to counter them, Naruto stated in an even voice as he tried to pull the weapon's weighted end out of the tree it was logged into. After several attempts, he gave up and threw the sickle end into the ground. There was no point in continuing to use a weapon that forced him to stay in one spot. So now he was down to only 3 weapons that he brought with him today. I guess it's time to bring out my ace in the hole. Never thought I would be forced to use ninpo arts against a leaf ninja other than Jiraiya, given how they're nothing more than a one-tick pony. Naruto thought to himself as he prepared to unleash his hidden trump card. In a series of rapid hand gestures that would have been almost impossible for anyone to follow, Naruto quickly began to summon up his ki that would be used to fuel the technique he had in mind. After several of preparation, he launched a massive fireball at the Jonin half, knowing and expecting that Kakashi would dodge it. At least he hoped, as he would hate to explain to the council why he killed a seasoned Jonin with a technique that theoretically shouldn't exist in the eyes of the modern ninja. That was something he would rather avoid having to deal with. Kakashi's visible eye widened significantly to an almost to a comical level as he watched the fireball rapidly advance towards him. Without a second thought, he dodged by shining away to safety. He didn't know what scared him more, the fact that Naruto created a fireball using something other than chakra, or that he managed to make a fireball that size to begin with. Creating a fire by using something other than chakra shouldn't be physically possible, unless you're a civilian using something to create the necessary friction that would to start a fire. Perhaps I should test the others for a while, and leave Naruto alone for the time being, Kakashi thought with some hesitation. For the first time in years, Kakashi felt something other than boredom and excitement in fighting someone. Was this fear that he was feeling? If Naruto could fight him as an equal, then what could the others do? He quickly found Sakura hiding in the nearby bushes, trembling uncontrollably at the sight of the previous fight. He quietly snuck up behind her with the stealth that he developed during his tenure as a member of Konoha's Enbu Black Ops unit. His earlier excitement quickly evaporated into disappointment after Sakura failed to notice his presences after standing behind her for a few minutes. Pissed. Sakura, look behind you. Kakashi whispered into her ear while silently casting a simple genjutsu over her before disappearing into the forest. A few minutes later, Sakura's loud banshee-like shriek of terror echoed throughout the surrounding forests, scaring the living daylights out of the animals that inhabited it. It seems like I overdid it a little bit. Then again, it's her fault for not being able to see through a simple genjutsu. Kakashi rationalized as ran along the treetops as he searched for the Uchiha member of the team. He found the Uchiha hanging upside down from one of the many traps that he set up during the 2 hours that he made his students wait for him. Kakashi let out an annoyed sigh. He had honestly half expected the young Uchiha to at least touch one of the bells. I wonder if I could take Naruto on as my full-time apprentice. He certainly is more than a match for me in hand-to-hand combat. Kakashi thought to himself as he walked towards the hanging Uchiha. It was bad enough that the civilian council had forced him to take on the Genin team with Sasuke on it. The fact that the Hokage had literally lost any spine he had left after the daimyo refused to allow him to execute the council for declaring themselves the sovereign rulers of the village only made things worse for the shinobi corps, as now the council was starting to interfere in the lives of shinobi. This in turn caused many shinobi to complain to the Hokage about it. If the Hokage and the daimyo didn't tread carefully, a full-scale civil war or a military coup d'état could possibly occur. You know, I would have figured that you would at least make this a little more challenging for me like Naruto did, but it seems that I was wrong. Kakashi spoke with a bored and disappointed look. However, Sasuke just smirked smugly as if he knew some great secret. Quickly Kakashi realized that he walked into a trap as the Sasuke in front of him disappeared with a loud poof and a cloud of white smoke. A few seconds later, 3 shurikens came flying out of a grove of nearby trees aimed at his neck, only to strike a log that he had switched with using the substitution just you at the last second. Okay, so the Uchiha has some skill, but he's still not impressive as Naruto, Kakashi muttered under his breath. Indeed, he was still mentally kicking himself for not heeding Jiraiya's warnings about the former blonde. His arrogance would very well have cost him his life if this had been a real fight. Flashback: Kakashi was leaning against the guardrail as he listened to Jiraiya about how greatly Naruto had changed during his time on Mount Ryu. To say that the boy was strong would be an understatement of the century. He could only describe Naruto as a super ninja from the information he was hearing. That's if Jiraiya was telling the truth. No offense to you, Jiraiya-sama, but it's kinda of hard for me to believe that Naruto is that skilled. Kakashi spoke, unconvinced by the Toad Sage's analysis of Minato's only son. Jiraiya nodded his head in understanding. Hell, even he had a hard time believing what he was talking about. The only way that Kakashi would believe it was if he experienced it firsthand. Believe me, Kakashi, when I say this. When you're testing Naruto, be on your guard, because the moment you let it down for even a second, Naruto will take you down in a heartbeat. Jiraiya warned with a dead serious look. Kakashi simply nodded his head in agreement. He knew that when the Sennin was acting like this, then it was wise to heed what he was saying. If it comes down to it, I'm sure I can defeat him due to my greater experience. Kakashi spoke in a calm manner as he adjusted himself into a more comfortable position against the railing. Jiraiya mentally sighed at the bombshell he was about to drop on Kakashi. Normally the silver-haired Cyclops would be correct, as the more experienced warrior often won over the more skilled one. But when it came to Naruto, that rule often didn't apply. Momiji had taken great lengths to ensure that he underwent the same training that all children of the Hayabusa clan went through. From what he had seen from the training when he spied on them, the Hayabusa clan was easily in a league of their own back in their heyday. Heck, even by today's standards they were not a group to be trifled with. That advantage that you're going to be relying on may or may not be in your favor, Kakashi. Jiraiya spoke in a grim tone, surprising Kakashi. Kakashi for the first time was beginning to feel insecure about being able to handle Naruto. His knees buckled in fear to his surprise. He hadn't felt this type of fear in a long, not since his first mission as a squad leader. He quickly suppressed his fear, thinking that the Sennin was simply exaggerating like he often did with the features of the various women he researched on. Rest assured, Jiraiya-sama, I will not underestimate Naruto if I fight him. Kakashi spoke convincingly to the Toad Sage. But he sincerely doubted that Naruto would be much of a challenge on his part. After all, the former Jinchuriki had been nothing more than an annoying prankster, and he found it difficult to believe that the kid went from a prankster to an S-ranked ninja in only a few short years. End of flashback. The next thing Kakashi knew was that he was staring at Sasuke, who was buried up to his neck in the dirt. He blinked in surprise at the sight of the Uchiha before mentally shrugging his shoulders and attributing the Uchiha's current state for his body's battle-hardened reflexes kicking in. You know, it's kinda of impolite to attack someone when they're having a flashback. Kakashi spoke in his infamous blunt and disinterested voice. He was, however, disappointed that Sasuke hadn't been able to at least keep fighting. If it had been his older brother Itachi he had been fighting, then he would have either been defeated or at least still fighting, but in a very bad state. With another bitter sigh, Kakashi shushined away from the area to look for his other two students, leaving Sasuke alone. Sasuke began struggling in a vain effort to break free from his humiliating situation. He could just hear the rest of the clan mock him for being defeated by a lowly peasant Jonin while he was having a flashback. Just then a stray dog appeared out of the bushes and wandered closer to his exposed head. It gave a quick sniff as if thinking that the restrained Uchiha was a strange-looking bush. With a quick doggy shrug, the stray lifted its hind leg, causing Sasuke began struggling even harder, trying to avoid what he knew was going to happen. Elsewhere, Naruto was silently prowling along the treetops looking for his two teammates and his sensei, when he heard an extremely loud girly scream off in the opposite direction he had came from. He immediately ruled out the pink-haired Kunoichi, as she acted more like a banshee fiend than a girl, and Kakashi could also be ruled out as the man had enough combat experience not to scream. So that just left the Uchiha as the only possible culprit. I wonder what made the ever-stoic Uchiha scream like that? The young dragon ninja asked himself as he stood on a tree branch. He looked down and spotted Sakura passed out on the ground. He could easily tell that the girl had been placed under a genjutsu. With an annoyed sigh, Naruto dropped down to forest floor to check if his teammate was alright. He crouched next to her and checked for a pulse. He found one only after a few seconds of searching. She's alive. That's a good sign, I think, Naruto thought to himself as pulled his hand back. He briefly contemplated whether to release the genjutsu or not. In the end he decided not to, as genjutsu wasn't his strong suit. He was more likely to harm her than help her if he tried to release it. With some hesitation he gently picked her up and took off to the meeting point. It looks like round 2 with Kakashi will have to wait. Oh well, it's not like they can stop me from being a ninja if the team fails. Naruto spoke to himself as headed to the 3 posts. While he was away from the village, he had earned a fearsome reputation as a formidable warrior, to the point that he was in several bingo books with an A-ranked bounty attached to his head due to his actions. So even if he did fail, He could simply continue being an independent ninja regardless of what the Leaf wanted. Sometimes it pays to leave an abusive village as a child. He placed Sakura against one of the logs before he walked over to the memorial stone and sat down. There was no point in continuing his pursuit of Kakashi now, as there was only 10 minutes left, and the Jonin had began suppressing his chakra after his battle with him, making it difficult to track him. "You know, I wouldn't have figured you would do something like this, Naruto." A voice spoke from behind him. Naruto quickly pulled out his Kusarigama and spun around to find a shadow clone of Kakashi standing there with a disappointed look in his eyes. It must have figured that Naruto was eating the 2 futons of food meant for the people who got the bells from him. "I'll have you know, Kakashi, that I was going to start cleaning and checking my weapons for any damages. Besides, I brought my own lunch with me." Naruto spoke with some disdain as he revealed the scroll containing said food in it. It was clear to Kakashi at that moment that Naruto had no real love for Konoha despite what the Hokage had told him. The clone immediately dispersed with a puff of smoke, leaving Naruto behind with his right eyebrow twitching uncontrollably. He would never understand why modern-day shinobi and kunoichi used such flashy techniques when they were supposed to be warriors of the shadows. "I'm just going to skip the entire Team 7 passing moment, as it would be redundant to have it in the story. I'm also skipping most of the Capture Tora the Cat mission." Team 7 watched as the Fire Daimyo's wife squeezed the life out of Tora, who was struggling to break free of her owner's vice grip she called a hug. Naruto, feeling sorry for the small creature, decided to speak up and help the thing out. "Ma'am, I think I know the reason why Tora keeps on running away from you," he politely spoke to the woman. This immediately caught everyone in the room attention. The Fire Daimyo's wife stopped squeezing the life out of the cat with some surprise. Seeing that he had the woman's attention, Naruto continued. "Cats are very independent creatures and don't like being smothered with affections. Also, you're holding her wrong," he commented as he used his limited knowledge of animals to good use. The woman for her part blinked several times in surprise by the ninja boldness. Very few people ever talked to her like that, but if it helped prevent future escape attempts, she'll let slide. "Can you show me how to properly hold her then?" she asked with some skepticism in her voice. Naruto quickly showed her how to properly hold a cat, and sure enough, Tora was quickly purring with great enjoyment. The daimyo's wife quickly thanked him before paying for her bill and left with Tora in tow. "Okay, we can mark down another D-ranked mission completed for Team 7, as well as an A-ranked mission for Naruto for finally figuring out a way to prevent Tora from escaping." Sarutobi addressed his Chunin assistant for the day, Iruka. Iruka simply nodded his head in agreement at what his leader had said, silently thanking Kami or any other divine being that someone finally figured out a way to stop Tora from escaping and wreaking utter havoc all over Konoha. It seemed like Naruto, or as some of the academy students have started calling him, Master Hayabusa, took his career as a ninja very seriously and viewed these missions that he had completed as nothing more than jokes made by lazy civilians. He wanted others to understand that he was a ninja, not some cheap source of labor. But that didn't mean he wasn't without sympathy, as he'd taken the time one day to explain to his new batch of student as to what they were getting themselves into. Flashback: Iruka stared at his new class of potential genin, appraising them if one would with a vase to check if it was the real deal and not an expensive knockoff. So far he wasn't impressed by any of them save for a select few. It was as if the village had given him a large pile of inferior wood and told him to build a house out of it without any nails or tools. But before he could make his opening speech welcoming his new students, the classroom door opened up, revealing Naruto Hayabusa. "Excuse me for the interruption, Iruka-san, but can you tell me where the mission office is?" Naruto politely asked as he glanced at the assembled class. Iruka simply nodded his head in understanding, as Naruto didn't train to become a ninja here, so he didn't know where a lot of the key locations such as the hospital were located. "It's on the 3rd floor of the Hokage Tower, Hayabusa-sama. Just look around for it and you'll find it," Iruka answered. Remember, he was talking to a clan head despite his age. Naruto nodded his head, knowing where that particular building was due past experiences of him being sent there when he was younger. The memories of the Hokage scolding him for defending himself against the villagers who decided it would be fun to attack him because he was the jailer to the Kyuubi were still fresh in his mind. Some scars can never properly heal even with time. "Domo arigato for your help, Iruka-san, but please just call me Naruto," Naruto commented before he noticed that the academy students were looking at him with starry eyes. Seeing an opportunity to teach these ninja acolytes about the truth of being a ninja, he decided to put his past experiences to good use. "I take it this is the new batch of students in the way of the ninja?" Naruto asked as he turned to face the class. Iruka looked at Naruto wearily, hoping he didn't do something that frightened off his students. "Before I leave, I would like to tell you all about the life of a ninja." Naruto started as he walked to the front of the class. The class looked at him with awe that a future comrade had decided to pass on some of his earthly wisdom to them. The life of a ninja is a long and hard road for anyone to walk on. It is not a path to be taken lightly. It requires absolute dedication from you at all times, even when you are not out on missions. If you're not willing to commit to that type of dedication, then I suggest you get out while you can, because you are not only putting yourselves at risk but also that of brothers in arms. This is the price that we pay as warriors. We are forever on alert. Only in death can finally drop your guard. As warriors you'll be expected and required to the life of another even when you don't want to. Naruto spoke sagely with conviction as he drew upon his past experiences and training under Momiji. Iruka looked at the young dragon ninja with absolute amazement as Naruto continued speaking about the hardships that the students would endure if they wished to continue on this dark path as he described it. He could see many students that he believed wouldn't make the cut go pale as Naruto talked about what was expected of them, while others adorned a more determined looks, showing that they were willing to endure anything in order to become leaf ninjas. In one fell swoop, he had literally separated who was willing to go the extra mile in order to become a ninja from those who wouldn't. Abrupt end of flashback. Iruka quickly snapped out of his flashback when he noticed that Sasuke was overstepping his rank and authority. "Hey old man, I demand that I be given a mission that is worthy of someone of my status," the Uchiha arrogantly demanded from the Hokage. Only to be answered by a smack upside his head by Naruto for his disrespect towards the Hokage. Naruto may not like the old man for his role in his shitty childhood, but he still showed respect towards the higher-ranking ninja regardless of his feelings and expected his teammates to do the same. Sasuke quickly rubbed the swelled-up bruise on his head while glaring at the masked blonde with utter hatred. "I suggest that you show some respect for your superior officer, Uchiha, unless you want to end up prison or worse for insubordination." Naruto warned his more arrogant teammate of the possible consequences of his actions. It wasn't that he really cared for the Uchiha. In fact, he flat out despised him for various reasons. The most prevalent reason being the Uchiha's undeserved ego and sense of superiority that he had. He heard rumors about how the instructors at the academy changing his grades so that he would be head of the class. It quite frankly sickened him that the Hokage had allowed this sabotage to happen in the first place. "Shut up Naruto baka. If Sasuke-kun wants a higher-ranking mission, then that old washed-up has been better give him one," Sakura yelled out, defending Sasuke's insubordinate actions only to be met with a crushing wave of killer intent. Everyone, save for Sakura, who was busy pissing her pants in fear, looked at the third Hokage, who looked murderous at Sakura's disrespect towards him. "This washed-up has been, as you put it, genin, is still capable of putting brats like you back into their proper place. I suggest that you watch your tone for now on and get out of my sight," Sarutobi ordered while he reined in his anger. Sakura quickly nodded her head and ran as fast she could towards the door, leaving behind a trail of urine on ground behind her. Kakashi let out a sigh of annoyance before he began working damage control on the situation. "Sasuke, you're dismissed for the rest of the day. You can go home. Rest assured I will be talking to your uncle about this incident later," Kakashi ordered sternly, leaving no room for argument. Sasuke gave a quick glare at his teammate and at Kakashi before leaving the room to head back to the compound and tell his family his version of what had transpired. As soon as the door closed behind him, Sarutobi let out a sigh of misery and relief. He would be dealing with the civilian council over this incident at a later date, he just knew it. "Now that those two are gone, we can get down to business," the aged Hokage spoke in a hushed voice. He turned to Naruto, who was standing in front of him with his arms crossed his chest. The mission he had in mind was twofold. The first was that Team 7 would be helping Team 8 protect a bridge builder, and the second was for him to investigate the strange reports that Jiraiya's spies had been sending in about strange creatures appearing in the Land of Waves. At first he thought it was one of his traitorous students' experiments gone wrong that managed to escape, but then he noticed that these creatures were appearing in large enough numbers, which ruled out Orochimaru's involvement in the matter. Recently, there have been reports of strange creatures coming out of the Land of Waves. Kakashi, I want you and Team 7 to join Team 8 on their mission in guarding a bridge builder from that country. You are to investigate this matter while they guard their client from danger. Sarutobi started speaking about the mission. He hoped that the investigation might instill some sense of loyalty to the hidden leaf into the dragon ninja. Jiraiya's reports on the boy quickly shot down the notion that he had, thinking that Naruto was just trying to get back at the leaf for his harsh treatment as a child. The reality was that Naruto genuinely hated the leaf and everything it stood for, often calling the villagers scum and hypocrites. He went so far as to call the first Hokage Hashirama Senju, a naive idealist who didn't understand the way actually the world worked. I want you to find out what's going on, and if it could possibly be useful to the village, capture it, but if it's a danger, eliminate it. You're to report to the southern village gate at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Sarutobi finished, noticing Naruto's eyes narrowing at him like he saw through what was going on. As Naruto narrowed his eyes, his mind was rapidly processing everything he had seen and heard from the mission briefing. He had a suspicious feeling that the old man was trying to pull something on him. It wouldn't be the first time that he tried. Consider it done, Lord Hokage. Naruto spoke in an even voice before leaving the office without being dismissed. Sarutobi let out an annoyed sigh as he watched the young blonde leave the room. It was obvious to everyone that Naruto had no respect for him as a leader ever since the dragon ninja had learned of his parentage. Sarutobi did feel slightly bad for keeping his heritage a secret from him, but the council had voted that he was not to be told of his heritage until he was deemed mature enough to not react in such a negative way towards them. So now he had to deal with an extremely resentful Naruto who had no qualms of sacrificing his birth village for the greater good if he saw the need to do so. Sometimes he really hated being the Hokage. Naruto sat at the southern gate as he waited for his comrades to show up. He had changed out of his regular attire of a purple shinobi shozoku that he wore when he was inside the village and replaced it with a black aerodynamic sleeveless leather suit with matching ninja tabi boots. He also wore black fingerless gloves in the event he needed to hold the Ryuken for long periods of time. For added protection, he wore black and silver forearm and shin guards. On his head he wore a black ninja hood and mask to conceal most of his face, leaving only his dragon green eyes and the bridge of his nose exposed to the world, while around his neck was a black silk scarf that had seen better days. Also adorning his head was a silver head crest that had a dragon masterfully carved into it. To the many of the villagers that had seen him wearing it, they had quickly mistaken him for a member of the Anbu Black Ops. Even Momiji had mistaken for her deceased master Ryu Hayabusa when he first donned the suit. On his back, resting in its sheath, was the Ryuken, the blade that had changed his life around. While it wasn't most powerful weapon in his arsenal, it was by far the most balanced compared to other weapons such as the Enma's Fang. On his legs were 6 kunai knife shurikens, with 3 on each leg, while a windmill shuriken was attached to his left forearm guard with 20 feet of ninja wire. In all, he looked like one very dangerous opponent to go up against. Excuse me, sir, but is there a reason why you're sitting here?" one of the gate guards asked with some suspicion. Naruto turned his head to face the guard who had spoken to him. While it did slightly irritated him that the guard was questioning him about his business at the gate, he knew that the guard was simply doing his job. "I'm waiting for my team to show up, guard-san," he politely offered as he readjusted himself on his eat. The guard quickly nodded his head in understanding, as it was common for someone to wait for their teammates at the gates before they left for a mission outside the village. Just then, Team 8 appeared with the client in tow. Team 8's a Jonin instructor blinked in surprise at the sight of Naruto. "What's an unsupervised genin doing here?" she wondered to herself as she stared at the mysterious genin in question. She knew who it was. Heck, practically every shinobi that was a Jonin had heard about him. He was Naruto Hayabusa, formerly known as Naruto Uzumaki of the Hidden Leaf Village. He was the cold-blooded killer of the former head of the Uchiha clan at the young age of 5. "What brings you here, Naruto?" Kurenai asked in a curious tone. Naruto stared at her for a few seconds as if he was trying to decide if she was an enemy or not. His startling green eyes looking her over, she was used to having men and younger genin check her out. But this was something completely different. He wasn't checking her out as if she was a new potential notch on his belt of accomplishments, but rather as a rival. It greatly unnerved her. "Team 7 is to accompany you and your team to the Land of Waves in order to investigate strange creature sightings that are coming out of the Land of Waves," Naruto answered bluntly before closing his eyes. Team 8 and Tazuna looked at the dragon ninja like he had grown an extra head. What did he mean by strange creature sightings? Tazuna was the first to recover from his shock as a very important problem came to the forefront of his mind. "So does this mean I have to pay more?" Tazuna asked, worried as he and his people couldn't afford to pay Konoha for the additional support. They could barely afford to pay for a C-ranked mission even with their daimyo's help in gathering funds. The remaining currency was being saved so they could pay off Gado's thugs to leave them alone and to buy food. No, due to the fact that these creatures could possibly be a threat to the village, the Hokage himself had hired us for this mission. So you need not worry about paying us. Naruto spoke, keeping his eyes closed. Tazuna let out a sigh of relief at the news, but he was still worried his family and countrymen when he heard about these strange creatures. If something happened to his daughter and grandson while he was away, he would never forgive himself for leaving them alone. "Do not worry, Tazuna-san. I'm sure your family is safe for the time being." Naruto spoke as if he had sensed the man's worry. It was at this moment that the rest of Team 7 appeared. Kakashi looked at his third subordinate with some concern in his eyes. Naruto hadn't packed a bag for the trip, so either he had sealed everything he needed in a scroll, or he was expecting this mission to be really easy. "So glad you could be on time for once, Kakashi-senpai." Naruto spoke as he opened his eyes and got off of his makeshift seat. Kakashi let out a nervous chuckle as he rubbed the back of his head with right hand while he ignored the fact that Naruto didn't call him sensei. He guessed that he deserved that jab to his pride as he was late to everything. "I see that you don't have a bag with you, Naruto. You realize that your teammates won't have to share their supplies with you." Kakashi pointed out to his sensei's son. "Like I would waste my time helping that dope by sharing my supplies with him. If he's too stupid to bring his own supplies, then it's his problem, not mine." Sasuke and Sakura thought to themselves as they watched their teammate for his reaction. Naruto let out a chuckle, like he heard a somewhat funny joke. "I assure you, Kakashi-senpai, that I'm well prepared for this operation," Naruto commented as he stretched his limbs for any kinks. While Naruto and the rest of Team 7 made final preparations for the mission to the Land of Waves, Team 8 watched in amazement as their fellow genin repeatedly called his sensei senpai. Even Kurenai, who was known for expecting everybody that held the rank of genin with a few exceptions such as Kosuke Maruboshi to address her as sensei, was shocked by Naruto's lack of respect. "In that case, we better get going as we have a lot of ground to cover before we reach the Land of Waves." Kakashi spoke, turning serious at instant. With that being said, the two teams and their client quickly departed the village to carry out their respective missions. But what they didn't know was that a dark storm was raging over the desperate land and an old enemy was set to reappear. 2 weeks later, Teams 7 and 8 sat quietly on the small rowing boat that was smuggling them into the Land of Waves in order to avoid Gado's forces that help enforce Gado's tyrannical rule over the country. They had been lucky about the fact that they only had encountered the Demon Brothers on their way to the border between the two countries. Despite the fact that Tazuna had lied to them, Team 8 had elected to carry on with mission by the vote 2-1, with only Shino being the dissenting vote in the matter. "So Naruto, what was it like for you to train under one of the members of the Great Sennin?" Kurenai asked in a hushed tone despite her casting a genjutsu over them to help avoid detection. "Actually, all Jiraiya-san taught me was chakra control, and a few jutsu like the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. It was really Momiji who taught me how to be a ninja," Naruto answered as he continued to look for nearby patrol boats. While he understood the fact that genjutsu had the ability to cast illusions over people and objects, he did not place that much faith in it for practicality reasons. It could easily be broken by the person that was caught in it, if they knew how to. There was also the possibility that the wrong person sprung the illusion, tipping off the target that a ninja was after them. At least it was stealthier than the jutsu that modern-day ninjas liked showing off during battle. Why they used such flashy techniques when they had the element of surprise was beyond him. It was as if they were actively trying to insult the very definition of what it means to be a ninja. "Hey, keep it down, will you? I don't want Gado's water patrols to hear us." The boat's owner, a man by the name of Kaji, barked out at his passengers in a hushed voice. He was already having difficulty trying to steer the boat with the extra weight of his passengers. The small fishing boat that they were currently riding in was supposed to carry up to 6 people. "Excuse me for asking me this, Kaji-san. However, I was wondering if you could explain the strange creature sightings that are coming out of your country," Naruto asked with a level of professionalism that shocked everyone as he pulled out a small blue notebook out of nowhere. Even Kakashi was taken aback by the way that Naruto was acting, not even Anbu Black Ops ninjas acted this professional to other people. He should know, as he had been a captain in the unit for several years and knew the quirks of his comrades inside and out. Well, from what I heard, the creature is around 12 feet with a muscular chest and blood-red skin. A few witnesses have reported that the creatures were bipedal with 2 clawed arms and have the jaws of a dragon along with the tail of a reptile. However, the most frightening part of them is the fact that they got horns, which are similar to that of a goat. The boat rower explained as he gave the dragon ninja all the details that he could remember from the few times he had been in town to offload his smuggled supplies. As Naruto wrote down the information that he was being told by the smuggler, he could not help get the feeling that he had seen this creature before. Not in person at least, but in books and scrolls back on Mount Ryu, or as Momiji occasionally called it, Mount Fuji. This creature was starting to sound more like a low-leveled fiend than some exotic creature that came into existence following the Great Calamities. Great, it sounds like I'll be dealing with some fiend on this mission. Here's hoping that my so-called teammates don't get killed by their stupidity, because I won't be helping them, he thought to himself as he put away his notebook. He would have to tell Kakashi and Kurenai later about what they would be facing when the acolytes were not around to hear the conversation. At least, the mission was going to be a lot more interesting for him. The combined teams of 7 and 8 were walking on a narrow game trail as they remained on alert for any possible threats that could be waiting in the thick mists that were gathering around them. Almost everyone was on edge as they tried to spot any suspicious-looking shadows that were getting too close to the group. The only person who was remaining calm and at home within the mists was Naruto, thanks in large part to the brutal training he had endured on Mount Ryu, particularly the training at the shinobi graveyard that rested near the summit of the mountain. He had even mastered that training during his brief time as a participant of Land of Water's civil war, fighting on the side of the bloodline users. Hey Kakashi-sensei, earlier you said that the Nami no Kuni had no ninja village. Why don't they have one? It seems kinda of silly to be a nation if they don't have some means to defend themselves. Sakura asked louder than was necessary. Naruto and the 2 Jonin mentally groaned at the sound of Sakura's voice. They were in the middle of enemy-held territory and she decided to start asking questions about a topic that had nothing to do with the current situation. First off, Sakura, you need to keep your voice down as rival ninjas could be trying to find us. And secondly, the Land of Waves was originally a part of the Land of Whirlpools before it was destroyed during the Second Shinobi World War. Kakashi lectured as he spared a glance at Naruto to see how he was taking the information. For the most part, Naruto seemed to be focused more on the mission than on what he was saying. It was no secret to him that Naruto flat out despised his mother's clan for abandoning him to the tender mercy of the Leaf Villagers, along with the Senju clan for their naive beliefs about what a shinobi should be. The fact that he had learned that his own mother along with the remnants of the Uzumaki clan had joined the Black Spider Ninja clan, which happened to be the mortal enemies of the Hayabusa clan, didn't help improve his opinion in the matter. It had actually made him despise the Black Spider clan even more, which in turn soured the Hayabusa clan's relations with the Uchiha clan, who had blood connections to the Fiendish clan. Thankfully, I made sure to tell Kurenai not mention his connections to that fallen nation. Kakashi thought to himself as he mentally patted himself on the back for thinking ahead in that matter. However, he couldn't help feel that he had forgotten something important. After a few seconds of thinking about, he realized what he had forgotten to do. He failed to do the same thing with his other students. Wait a minute, doesn't that mean Naruto is somehow related to this? Sakura asked as she remembered that at one time her brown-haired teammate was originally known as Naruto Uzumaki and had blonde hair with blue eyes. The area suddenly dropped 20 degrees in temperature and it became almost impossible for the genin to breathe due to the amount of killer intent that was washing over them in waves. Tazuna was on the forest ground unconscious, while Akamaru was whimpering inside Kiba's jacket in fear at the person who was causing all of this. Even the 2 Jonin were having trouble standing up against the killer intent that the young dragon ninja was unleashing against everyone. Sakura, I suggest that you think before you speak, as you're more likely to survive that way. Naruto coldly spoke as he turned to face the barely standing Sakura, who was about ready to piss herself in absolute fear. Sakura managed to nod her head in understanding before the killer intent tampered off and everyone returned to normal. As everyone got off the ground, the ninja silently made a mental note promising never to piss off their dragon ninja colleague. However, for Sasuke Uchiha, he clenched his fists in absolute anger at the display of mental power that murderer of his father had shown earlier. Damn it! How did that loser from a worthless clan gain this much power during his self-imposed exile? It made Itachi look like a newborn kitten. Only I should have that power. I'm an Uchiha and a descendant of the original Genshin, the greatest ninja that has ever existed. Damn it. Sasuke thought to himself as he glared at the back of his teammate's hood-covered head with jealousy and hate. While Sasuke glared at his teammate, the rest of the Konoha genin had several thoughts that ranged from Hinata's absolute awe to Sakura's terror that she had awoken the mighty Kyuubi from its grave and was ready to rain down its demonic fury upon her. However, Kurenai was conflicted about what she should do. On one hand, Naruto had indirectly threatened one of comrades and as such, she was required to discipline him. On the other hand, Sakura had unknowingly crossed a personal boundary that he had created when it came to the Uzumaki clan. Deciding that the rest of the genin needed to know the reason why their comrade reacted so badly towards Sakura's comment. Sakura, Naruto's mother, hailed from the Uzumaki clan, but she had abandoned him shortly after he was born to join the rest of her clan who were members of the Black Spider Ninja clan following the destruction of Uzushiogakure. Kurenai quickly explained to the pink-haired girl about the reason why Naruto held such hatred for his mother and her clan. When Kurenai first learned that Kushina was leaving the village to reunite with her fellow Uzumaki, she had felt personally betrayed by the red-headed woman's decision. This had caused her to focus solely on her career that left little time for her to look after Naruto when he was growing up in the village as she had promised to do. After all, why should she go through her promise, when her sensei couldn't even keep her own? Nevertheless, the red-eyed Jonin found odd was how her sensei acted just days before Naruto's birth. She had been spending large amounts of her time with that woman from the Black Spider Ninja clan alongside Lady Bawako. Obata. Kurenai believed the Black Spider Ninja woman's name was. The few times that she had met the older woman, it felt like she was looking at somebody that made Orochimaru look like a virtuous saint. Is it possible that this Obata person had something to do with Sensei's sudden change in personality? Kurenai thought to herself as she looked at Naruto with some concern in her eyes. However, before she could continue her train of thought, she heard a ghastly roar coming from the group's left flank. Everyone immediately got into a defensive position around their client as they heard the creature approaching them. As the unknown creature rapidly approached their position, the genin and Tazuna were shaking uncontrollably with fear as they heard tree fall to the ground as the creature moved towards them. Even the two jonin shifted uncomfortably as they got out their kunai knives, but were able to prevent their fear from showing in front of their students. Kurenai looked at Naruto to see how he was taking this situation only to find that he was remaining calm about the entire situation and had his ninjutsu sword in front of him in a defensive posture that had his left hand on sword's blade. It was at this moment that the creature that had let out the strange roar finally appeared. Needless to most of the group was shocked by the creature's appearance. It was reptilian-like 7-foot-tall creature with blood-red skin. Attached to its muscled chest were two arms that had wickedly clawed hands. It had a lizard-like tail that matched its dragon-like head that was filled with razor-sharp teeth that looked like they came from a giant crocodile. Finally, jutting out of the back of the creature's head was a pair of horns that looked like they could do some serious damage if used against a human being. Great, we're dealing with a Gala-class fiend and we have a bunch of acolytes, not mention an elderly civilian, to worry about. Naruto commented as he stared at the creature with absolute disgust as he remained on guard for more of the creature's species. He could tell that the creature in front of them was a female due to its smaller size from the text he had read, meaning that either they had unintentionally walked into its mate's territory or they were being perceived as a threat to its young. Either case was not good as Galas matured at a rapid pace, which meant that the younger males would often leave their sire's territory to establish their own domains elsewhere. This means that a lot of innocent people were in jeopardy. Kakashi-senpai, I want you to take the rest of the group to Tazuna-san's house. I'll take care of this low-level fiend. Naruto spoke in a monotone voice that left no room for argument from the silver-haired jonin. Kakashi looked at Naruto in absolute shock. Did his sensei's son seriously suggest that they leave him behind to deal with this monster? It was obvious that he had more experience in dealing with these things than they did, so it made sense to let him handle the creature. If the dope wants to go and get himself killed by fighting that abomination, then let him. Sasuke commented with an ugly sneer as he greedily stared at the Ryukin wanting the mythical blade for himself. He had heard the stories of the sword from his relatives from the Black Spider Ninja clan during the few times that they came to visit the village. The sword had been supposedly forged out of a fang from one of the 12 divine dragons, like how the Jashinkan, or as it was more commonly known as the blade of the Archfiend, was forged out of the bones from the great Archfiend Vigor. If he could get his hands on the legendary sword, then he would unstoppable that he could easily get his revenge on his brother and uncle for their respective parts in crippling the Uchiha clan. Shut up, Sasuke. Naruto, are you sure that you're capable of fighting this creature alone? Kakashi ordered the young Uchiha before talking to Naruto with some concern that he was going to get himself killed by fighting this thing alone. He didn't want to explain to the Hokage as to why the heir to 3 clans, 4 if he were to obey the final will and testament of Shodai Hokage, had died during a C-ranked mission. Moreover, he really didn't want to explain to Momiji-sama as to what happened to her fellow clansmen under his watch. That woman was easily scarier than a pissed-off Tsunade Senju and an angry Enko Mitarashi combined, which was saying something, as both of those women had made even Jiraiya of the legendary Sennin run away in fear. I'll be fine, Kakashi-senpai. I'm just fulfilling my scared duty as a dragon ninja, but if you're not convinced that the mission is beyond the rest of the team's heads, then I suggest that you send a request for reinforcements from the village. Now go. Naruto commented as he continued to stare down the gala with eyes full of hate. Not needing any further encouragement, it was Kiba who led the charge away from the dragon ninja and his fiend opponent. Kiba was not by any means a coward, but this was the first time that his animal instincts had told him that it would be far smarter if he ran away and live another day. The rest of the group quickly followed suit, with Kakashi and Kurenai struggling to keep up with their students while they carried Tazuna to safety. The gala quickly tried to chase after the group, only to be stopped by the black-cladded dragon ninja, who was still holding the dragon sword in a defensive position. The creature let out a low and intimidating growl in an attempt to scare the ninja into running away like his comrades did. The memories of terrible abuse that it suffered at the hands of ninja back when it was still human flashed within its mind. To think that there's people in the world that would stoop so low as to sell their soul for some petty reason. I almost feel sorry for you. Naruto calmly spoke as he looked at the creature with disdain in his eyes. What remained of the creature's human intelligence quickly processed the insult, causing the gala to growl at him even louder than before. A quick breeze blew over Naruto towards the red-skinned fiend, causing the creature to smell the heavenly dragon's blood that was coursing through the ninja's body. The divine nature of the blood almost instantaneously drove the demonic creature to descend into uncontrollable bloodlust frenzy. The creature let out a mighty roar and charged at Naruto in the hopes of tearing him to pieces. Naruto stood ready, waiting for the perfect opportunity to launch his counterattack. As the creature moved closer and closer, he began pouring chakra into his feet while he gathered up his kai into his hands in order to launch an inferno fireball at the abomination. The creature was within 5 feet of him, with its maw wide open ready to clamp down on its new meal, when he shushined behind the creature and launched the massive fireball at the creature. Return to the darkness that spawned you, Naruto shouted as the massive fireball rapidly approached the creature from behind. The fireball hit the gala directly on its back, causing it to let out a high-pitched squealing scream as its flesh slowly burned to a crisp. Nevertheless, Naruto remained on guard and kept his sword at the ready, as he knew that it would take more than a simple ninpo spell to kill a fiend that was greater than a lesser shadow demon fiend. Sure enough, as the fire died down, revealing that the gala was still standing with severe burns littering all over its body, he could tell by the way that the former human was struggling to stay standing that it was on its last legs. The creature turned its entire body to face the young dragon ninja, its eyes full of hatred for the person that had caused it so much pain. Naruto simply glared back, daring the creature to speak in human tongue and accuse him of being a monster. It was the creature's own damn fault for picking a fight that it couldn't win, especially against a dragon ninja that held no reservations about killing something that was in his way. Throwing away any remaining self-preservation that it had left, the gala fiend rushed once more at him in one final desperate attempt to kill off the human that had so bad injured it. As the creature charged towards him once more, the young dragon ninja simply sidestepped the former human and slashed its right leg's hamstrings, causing the creature to fall to the forest floor with an extremely loud thud. The creature struggled in vain to get back up and continue the fight with Naruto, but to no avail, as its numerous wounds was too severe. It let out several loud roars and hisses as thrashed around on its belly as Naruto slowly approached the downed fiend to deliver coup de grace. He knew better from his time at Mount Fuji that a wounded cornered animal was easily more dangerous than a regular animal. That was doubly true for fiends and humans. To almost prove this point, the Gala slashed at him with its left clawed hand, causing him to leap to a few feet back to safety. I hope selling your soul was worth it, fiend, because now you're going to the Netherrealm where you belong, Naruto calmly declared as he leapt up into the air to launch a downward strike. The creature desperately tried to move out of the way with little success due to its cumbersome body and injuries. It could only helpless watch as the black-clad ninja quickly descended towards its head with the ninjutsu sword pointing downward. The Gala felt the slight sting as the sword pierced through its skin and skull before entering its brain. It let out one final low dog-like whimper as its life force left its body. Naruto gently withdrew the Ryukin from the now-dead Gala. He briefly looked at the sword's blade to see that it was covered in red blood before flicking his swordarm's wrist to remove blood from the weapon and sheathing the weapon back into its saya. That takes care of that vermin. Now, I just need to find Kakashi-senpai and Kurenai-senpai to finish this mission. The dragon ninja thought to himself as he walked in the general direction that he knew his fellow ninja had headed after he told them to leave. However, unbeknownst to Naruto, a lone figure had been watching the entire fight from a safe distance with mild interest. The observing silent figure wore a pinstriped kimono that was underneath a green haori with white trimming, while a brown sash with a fringed tail was firmly tied around their waist. The figure's feet were supported by a pair of platoon sandals with straps that matched the kimono's color. A white hair holder with a pair of metal hair cuffs held up the figure's hair except for 2 locks of black hair framing their face that was covered by a white porcelain hunter nin mask. The hunter ninja had watched the entire battle on the behalf of his master, Zabuza Momochi. Granted, Zabuza had ordered him to keep an eye on the target at all times. However, when the hunter ninja heard the black-clad ninja referred to several of his comrades as acolytes, he immediately switched priorities and continued to observe the ninja that elected to stay behind and deal with the creature that was threatening them. The fact that he used the term acolyte instead of genin indicated that the mysterious ninja was a follower of the Koga Ryu teachings, making him a much greater threat than even the 2 jonin in the group, as his skills could be vastly superior to them, as the Koga Ryu school was more meritocratic than the Iga Ryu. Zabuza-sama needs to be notified about this development right away, the hunter ninja thought to himself before shining into the forest to hunt down his master, who no doubt waiting for the group to come him. Elsewhere, teams 7 and 8 were currently walking at a quickened pace as they tried to get as far away from that monster that they had just seen, while at the same time guarding their client Tazuna in case any more of those creatures appeared. As they moved further and further away from the creature and Naruto, who elected to stay behind, Kakashi began to think that the mission that his team had been given was way over their heads, as that thing was no doubt former lab experiments of Orochimaru that managed to escape from its cell. Okay everybody, I think we're far enough from that thing to stop for now. I want everyone to take a 5-minute break, while I send a summons to the Hokage for reinforcements. Kakashi ordered as he stopped walking, but still remaining on high alert in case more of those things appeared. Almost after he finished speaking, all of the genin plus Tazuna dropped to the forest floor with loud groans of exhaustion from the amount of running that they had done. Sakura in particular was desperately out of breath and was soaked to the bone with sweat. This was something that Kurenai immediately picked up upon, as she had witnessed that Sakura had lagged far behind them during their escape from that monstrous creature. Has the Academy standards dropped so low that we're producing such worthless kunoichi? Kurenai thought as tried to tune out Sakura's rather loud and obnoxious complaining about having to run so far. The key word in that sentence being the word, tried. Why did we have to run so much? It's not like that creature was going to attack us once it was finished killing Naruto Baka. Sakura commented, not caring that she was badmouthing the person that had volunteered to stay behind and fight the creature on his own. Kurenai felt her left eye twitch at the callous comment that Sakura had made about her teammate. While she had been on several missions in the past that had forced her to leave behind a comrade that had been too wounded to be saved and was slowing the team down, the way Sakura had said it showed that she little to no regard for her comrade's life. This was in direct opposition of the views of the Hidden Leaf Village that placed a heavy emphasis on camaraderie. She looked at Kakashi, hoping that he was preparing to scold the pink-haired girl for her lack of concern or caring for teammate, only to find him talking to one of his ninkin. Sakura, I suggest that you be quiet for the rest of our journey to the Land of Waves. Kurenai spoke in an icy manner that had earned her reputation as the Ice Queen of Konoha. At the same time, She was giving the genin a heated glare to show that she wasn't fooling around. Sakura quickly realized that it wasn't a very good idea to insult Naruto in the presences of a Jonin sensei. Dumbly nodded her head. Good, also if I ever catch you insulting another leaf ninja again I'll make you wish you were never born. The red-eyed Jonin threatened before she began scanning the surrounding area for any potential hostiles. Kurenai didn't know what disgusted her more right now. The fact that Sakura had disregarded the sacrifice of her teammate, or the idea that she was destroying the hard work of countless kunoichi had done over the years with her actions. If Kushina-sama had stayed around the village to see this, she would have blown a gasket and demanded her immediate dismissal from the shinobi corps. With Sakura sufficiently cowed for the time being, Kurenai began looking around her environment to keep an eye out for any hostiles, be they human or otherwise. A few minutes later Kakashi walked up to her with a grim look. Kurenai, I'm sorry that you had to step in and discipline one of my students. It seems that no matter what I do to try and mold her into something useful to the village, she only reverts back into a useless fangirl that's more liable to do more harm than good. The silver-haired Cyclops commented in an apologetic manner as he stared at the misty lake that was in front of them. In many ways, it was the mere presences of the lake and the small tides that were washing up against its shores had an almost soothing effect on him. It had been one of the many things that he had in common with Minato Namikaze that Kakashi had learned about during his time as a student under the future Yondaime Hokage. Kurenai didn't answer him and she didn't need to, as he knew what she was thinking and he agreed with her completely. He was an absolute failure when it came to being a sensei. Anyways, the message requesting reinforcements has been sent to the Hokage. Hopefully he'll get it time. Kakashi spoke as he noticed something out of the corner of his right eye. It seemed to be a giant cleaver sword that only one man was well known to use. A rogue mist ninja that had failed to overthrow the Mizukage in a coup d'etat and had been on the run ever since. Everybody get down! Kakashi yelled out as he ducked just in the nick of time. Thankfully, everybody did what they were told and ducked down in order to avoid the flying sword coming at them. The Kabikirabocho harmless struck a giant oak tree that was a few feet away from the group, causing a flock of nesting birds to fly off out of fear. A few seconds later a 6-foot-tall muscular man appeared standing on the sword's handle with his back facing the group of Konoha ninja. The man was shirtless with only a belt covering his chest. His legs were covered by a pair of baggy with a striped pattern on them. On his feet were the standard blue shinobi sandals. On his arms was a pair of wrist warmers, while a pair of matching leg warmers rested on his legs. The man wore his shinobi headband sideways. Finally, his face was covered by medical bandages that concealed his nose, mouth, and his relatively narrow jawline. Well, if it isn't Sharingan no Kakashi and Genjutsu Mistress Kurenai Yuhi. No wonder the Demon Brothers failed to report back in when they failed to kill the bridge builder. The man spoke with a voice filled with contempt towards the Leaf Ninja. It was kinda of a well-known fact that the Hidden Leaf Village had committed some of the most horrific and hypocritical actions in its mad pursuit of power. Sure, the other hidden villages had done the same thing as Konoha, but it had never been on the scale that the Leaf did. Sorry to break this to you Zabuza, but you're the first human enemy that we've encountered so far. Kakashi responded as he got up off the ground and pulled out a kunai knife. The now identified Zabuza raised his left non-existent eyebrow in surprise. Was it possible that the Leaf Ninja had taken another route to the Land of Waves and simply avoided the Demon Brothers by sheer dumb luck? No, that wasn't it. His spies had scoped out any possible route out of the village that headed towards Nami no Kuni and they told him that this was the only route open. Could it be possible that Gato had hired another group of ninja and they took the Demon Brothers out? Zabuza pondered to himself as he stared at the group to observe any significant threats other than the two Jonin. He knew that it was extremely possible that his employer had hired another group of mercenary ninjas as the practice was somewhat common. Sadly, this was generally done by the less than savory clientele, who cared more about paying less than they agreed to. Just before the rogue mist ninja could ponder about the situation that he now faced, he heard an inhuman shriek that instantly reminded him of the time he witnessed the Yondaime Mizukage unleash the full might of his Biju on a group of Kumo ninjas. However, unlike that time, this sounded more animal-like and was directed towards him and the Leaf Ninja. That's when he noticed the Leaf Ninja were now on high alert with weapons at the ready. Almost on cue, a strange-looking creature landed right in front of the lake and Zabuza let in a sharp inhale. He recognized that creature from his failed attempt to overthrow Yagura. The creature was roughly around 13 feet tall and had wicked tusks and horns jutting out of its head. The limbs and torso of the creature were extremely thin compared to the rest of the body. However, on a stranger note, the radius bone and the ulna bones in the creature's arms were completely exposed to the world. Resting on the creature's back were two massive wings that were capable of allowing the creature to fly short distances. Finally, what really made the creature stand out was its dark purple skin with bright yellow eyes that seemed to look into your very soul. "What the hell is that?" Sakura screeched out in fear, causing everyone including the creature to clench their ears in order to avoid being deaf. Momiji Hayabusa sat quietly inside the office of the Hokage as she waited for the Sandaime Hokage to arrive with the patriarch of the Uchiha clan. They were going to discuss about possible solutions that could mend the multiple rifts between the Hayabusa clan and the Uchiha clan. Personally, the Shrine Maiden didn't really think that it was possible for some of the tensions to be removed, as many members of the Uchiha clan were related to the Black Spider Ninja clan in some way. The fact that Naruto had murdered the previous head of the Uchiha clan in self-defense also needed to be taken into account, as she had overheard the hushed whispers of some Uchiha wanting revenge for that slight to their clan's honor. The fact that the clan had a dojutsu keke genkai that allowed them to steal the techniques of other shinobi that had earned those abilities through years of hard training didn't sit very well with her. "I'm more concerned that so many of the civilian villagers believe that the Uchiha should be allowed to copy the techniques of other shinobi that are loyal to the village," Momiji thought to herself as she continued to wait for the Hokage and Genshin to arrive. During the few weeks that she had been in the village, she had discreetly gathered information on the major power players in the village. The Uchiha clan was a particularly fascinating case, as it was hated and beloved by the people of the village. The shinobi of the village were openly disdainful towards the clan for the Sharingan's ability to copy any just you that they had spent years to master. On the flip side, the civilians in the village openly praised the clan like they were a pantheon of gods. The fact that the civilian council was openly encouraging the civilians in the village to be sycophants was also very concerning to her. "It's like they're trying to keep the Uchiha clan happy at the expense of others," Momiji spoke to herself. However, neither of the two Uchiha was in a position to meet with her. Itachi was currently an international criminal for massacring over a third of the clan, while Shisui had supposedly committed suicide under very mysterious circumstances. She would openly admit that she found it suspicious that Itachi's mind would just snap without warning, when the Yamanaka clan was supposedly the leading village experts in psychology. One of them should have noticed the signs of post-traumatic stress disorder. It was pretty clear that the village government was covering something up, but the question is what? Perhaps, I'll ask the Hokage about this supposed massacre of a clan that helped found this village alongside the Senju clan. If I find that things don't add up, I'll confront him and demand the real reason why Itachi murdered a third of his clan. The Dragon Shrine Maiden mused to herself as she heard the sound of two men talking to each other as they walked towards the office. She instantly recognized that the voices belonged to the third Hokage and Genshin. The two of them were talking about the possibility of Genshin becoming the Godem Hokage, as Sarutobi wanted to return to retirement as soon as possible. The idea of a ninja retiring from the shinobi life simply because of old age was an insulting concept for the regent of the Hayabusa clan to even think about. In the Hayabusa village, the elderly were given the daunting task of teaching the skills that they had gained during their service as ninja to the next generation. "Can you two please just get in here so that we can discuss about the poor relations between the Hayabusa clan and the Uchiha clan?" Momiji mentally commanded to the two men as they had stopped just outside of the office's door to continue their discussion. As if on cue, the two men entered into the office with joyful laughs like the two had been sharing a joke between themselves. She suddenly felt a twang of sadness in her heart as it reminded her of the bonds that she had once shared with her fellow dragon ninja before the dragon god that resided in the Ryu no Magatama had granted her eternal youth and near immortality. She had been forced to watch as her fellow clansmen grew old and fragile, while she remained in her youthful prime. By the time that the great calamities occurred, she had taken to living on Mount Fuji alone for about 300 years after Ryu saved the world from the Lords of Alchemy's plans on reshaping the world as they saw fit. "I'm so glad the two of you finally decided to show up to this little meeting that the third Hokage had arranged between us," Momiji commented in an overly sweet manner that sent shivers down the two men's spines. The two shinobi let out a nervous chuckle as the tone that Momiji had used with them was reminding them of the time that Tsunade had nearly killed Jiraiya for peeking on her in the village's hot springs for the very first time. While the both of them were cage-level shinobi that were fully capable of fighting off normal kunoichi, Momiji wasn't a normal kunoichi by a long shot. She had personally debunked a lot of the previous notions that they had about the age before the Sage of Six Paths. Of course, many of the elder generation were reluctant to accept the fact that so much of their knowledge was incorrect. I'm glad that you're here, Momiji-san. I want you to explain why you and Naruto have been so disrespectful towards members of the Uchiha clan and the village's civilian council. Sarutobi calmly demanded from the ancient kunoichi as he walked over to leather chair. He was well aware that the tensions between the shrine maiden and the villagers were extremely high. Most of the elderly tended to view her as a relic from a less civilized time. At the same time, Momiji had made her disdain perfectly clear towards the people that held positions of power within the village. She had also flat out refused to work with members of the Uchiha clan on numerous occasions. It didn't help that she viewed most modern-day ninja as common mercenary thugs with special powers that they didn't deserve. The Hayabusa clan will not show any form of respect towards a group of people with the ability to steal the techniques by watching comrades that had worked hard to master those skills. Momiji coldly stated as she glared at the Hokage for allowing such a thing to happen in the first place. Genshin let out a sigh as he heard his clan being compared to a group of thieves by another clan head. Despite his best efforts to rehabilitate the clan's reputation, it had been a slow process as elements within his own clan was undoing his work. The civilian council putting enormous pressure on the village's shinobi to allow Uchiha ninja to copy their techniques wasn't helping the matter at all. It was one of the main reasons that he openly supported the Hayabusa head's constant disrespect towards the council. Be as that may, it doesn't excuse the fact that you have constantly disrespected towards a fellow clan head that has done nothing to warrant such hostilities. Sarutobi commented in a way that the Dragon Shrine maiden found extremely disrespectful. Genshin watched as Momiji's amber eyes briefly turned to a golden hue and her irises turning into slits. It was clear that she didn't appreciate the tone that the third Hokage had taken with her, as it sounded like a parent talking down to a disobedient child. The fact that he is named after the dreaded overlord of the Black Spider Ninja clan and has blood connections to a clan that has attacked the Hayabusa on numerous occasions is more than enough to warrant my attitude. Hokage Dono. Momiji commented as she unconsciously leaked her killer intent into the room. Both men were extremely wary about asking the reasons behind her dislike towards the legendary Genshin and the Black Spider clan. The clan had been dependable allies with the village in the past, as Genshin Uchiha was living proof of the relationship. However, Sarutobi wasn't going to allow a clan of the village to treat any ally with distrust. The Black Spider clan has been a steady ally of the Hidden Leaf village for over 100 years. I will not tolerate you showing any disrespect towards them because of some vendetta. Do I make myself clear? He spoke in a threatening manner. Whatever Momiji was going to say got cut off by a sudden poof of smoke that covered the Hokage's desk. She was instantly on high alert in case the smoke was being used as a cover for an attack. However, she relaxed as she noticed the concealed figure of a small dog in the smoke. Once the smoke completely, the canine figure was revealed to be a brown-furred pug that was wearing a blue vest with a Hino Hino Moheji seal on the back and a standard Konoha headband. Hokage Dono, Teams 7 and 8 have encountered an unknown creature with blood-red skin and are requesting reinforcements. The pug spoke in a deep and gruff male voice. At hearing the dog's voice, Momiji became even more serious, as very few creatures in the world could match that vague description. Most of them were creatures that had appeared following the great calamities that devastated the earth. She needed more information before she jumped to any conclusions. Mutt, did Kakashi describe any other details about the creature that attacked them? She demanded with voice that was cold as ice. Pakun had been called a lot of things over the years, but stupid was definitely not one of them. So when a woman that smelled like a dragon demanded something, he was going to give it to her and avoid pissing her off. It also didn't hurt that she was extremely beautiful by human standards. Yeah, he may have mentioned that the creature had the horns of a goat on top of its head. The brown pug commented as he rolled over onto his back as a clear sign of submission. Momiji sat in her seat in utter silence as she pondered over the list of fiends that had blood-red skin and the horns of a goat. She instantly eliminated several species of fiends from her mental list, as they had been rendered extinct by the efforts of her kinsmen and human encroachment on their habitats. That left only a species of fiend that Master Ryu had encountered during his incursion into the Vigorian Empire to get revenge on the greater fiend that led the attack on Hayabusa village. So it seems that teams 7 and 8 have encountered a gala on their trip. If they had encountered one, then there's a very distinct possibility that there's more of them are in the area. She finally commented as she got up from her seat and started walking towards the office door. Neither Hiruzen nor Genshin said anything to try and stop her, as they knew that nothing was going to change Momiji's mind. Besides, it was probably for the better if she left the village for a couple of days, as some villagers had been complaining about her presence for a while. Elsewhere, a lone merchant ship with 3 large masts was steadily sailing towards the northern coast of Nami no Kuni to deliver some cargo. On the ship's red sails was 4 diamonds within a solid ring that signified that the ship was from the land of lightning. Unlike other nations, merchants from Kaminari no Kuni were proud to fly the daimyo's family crest on their sails. To further separate themselves from their peers, each ship always carried a small detachment of samurai. This gave them a noticeable presence on the high seas, with only Hai no Kuni and Mizu no Kuni having a larger naval presence than them. But the sight of a lone Kaminari merchant ship being this far south was extremely unusual, as they generally stayed in convoys to deter pirates. However, this lone ship was currently holding some very special cargo that the Raikage had personally requested to be delivered to the small collection of islands. The cargo was in the form of a blonde-haired kunoichi that had a giant war hammer and a somewhat exotic weapon strapped to her back. Despite being extremely beautiful, all of the crew knew better than to pester the woman, as she carrying out a mission on the behalf of the daimyo. "Ma'am, we're about to be in rowing distance of the coast in a few minutes. I suggest that you get all of your gear ready, as we need to move fast before one of Gado's patrols spots us," one of the ship's sailors muttered to the Kumo kunoichi in a hushed tone. The woman nodded her head in understanding before heading below deck to gather the things that she would need for this mission. Once the crew was sure that the kunoichi was out of hearing range, they let out a collective sigh of relief. For some stranger and unknown reason, all of them would feel a great sense of unease and dread every time that they were around her. The general thought amongst the crew was that the sooner that she was off of their ship, the better that they were off in the long run. "No matter how many times that I've seen her, I still can't shake the sinister feeling that I get from being around her," a sailor whispered to one of his friends as they helped raise the sails to stop the ship from getting closer to shore. His friend nodded in agreement, as they had broken several maritime taboos by allowing a woman to sail aboard the ship with them. However, the payment for delivering a single woman to shores of Nami no Kuni was too much for the ship's captain to ignore. Of course, many of the crew had openly objected to the idea of allowing a woman on board, as most of them were extremely superstitious. But the captain has promised us that the ship will dock at Tsuki no Kuni for some rest and relaxation. The second sailor, as they tied the sail down to horizontal part of the mast. All of the ship's crew were well aware that the captain's promise was essentially a bribe to get them to obey his decision on bringing a woman on board. Such a promise was enough to get them to cooperate, as the port towns of Tsuki no Kuni were a sailor's paradise. Unlike ports on the mainland that had strict regulations in place, the ports of Tsuki no Kuni was a sailor's earthly and sinful paradise. It was at this moment that the blonde-haired woman reappeared from below the decks with a large sea bag slung over her right shoulder. None of the sailors were really surprised by the fact that she was carrying such a 100-pound bag without any difficulties. Earlier in the trip, some of them had tried to lift her warhammer to prove their masculinity without any success. "Prepare to lower the whaleboat," the captain of the ship yelled out to the crew. The crew quickly began making the necessary preparations to get the kunoichi off of their ship. The sooner they got rid of her, the quicker that they got to Tsuki no Kuni. With Team 7 and 8, it was pure chaos as Kakashi and Kurenai tried their hardest to protect their students and the client from the strange creature. They weren't having much success in that endeavor, as their genin were scattered around the area. It seemed like Shino and Hinata were the only genin that had placed the client's safety ahead of their own. Sasuke had been easily knocked out by a vicious backhand from the creature after he had foolishly charged the beast head-on. Sakura was busy hiding behind Tazuna and screaming her head off to be of any real help. Finally, Kiba had fled with Akamaru to a nearby tree and climbed up to its highest branches like a scared cat. Zabuza had long since withdrawn from the area in the belief that the creature would be able to kill them for him. To be fair to the rogue ninja, the creature was powerful enough to hold its own against 2 Jonin ninja that were veterans of the Third Shinobi World War and numerous missions. He also knew that once the abomination was finished with the Leaf Ninja, it would quickly turn and try to attack him. So it was better for him to fall back and allow the creature to do his dirty work. Damn it. It seems that none of our attacks are having any effect on the beast. Kakashi yelled out in frustration as the creature's leathery hide was reminiscent to the prototype chakra armor that shinobi from the land of snow had worn during his Anbu days. Kurenai could only mentally agree with her colleague as she had other things to worry about at the moment. Not only was she focused on fighting with the creature, she was also worrying about her students and the client at the same time. Unless they knew the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, the idea of multitasking in the middle of a fight was a ninja's worst nightmare. Kaden. Gokakyu no Jutsu. Kakashi yelled out as he made the correct hand signs before taking a big inhale of air. A second later, he exhaled and unleashed a giant fireball at the creature in the hopes of burning it to death. The fireball quickly consumed the creature and hovered in the same location that the monster had been standing at the time of impact. With a temperature of 1800 degrees Fahrenheit, most beings would have been reduced to ash in a matter of seconds. However, Kakashi didn't know that the fiends had gradually evolved over the millennia with the introduction of chakra. The creature let out an ear-splitting screech like it was dying in agony before using its massive wings to disperse the fireball. Both Jonin were stunned speechless to find that the fire jutsu hadn't harmed the creature in any way. While they had been frightened at the sight of the creature like their students, they had been able to control that fear to a certain degree. However, they were now starting to feel a new kind of fear in their hearts. We'll need a serious miracle if we're going to survive this mess, Kurenai thought to herself as she pulled out a kunai knife and got into a defensive stance. It was in critical situations like this that the Genjutsu mistress really wished that she had learned Kenjutsu from Kushina-sensei. Unlike a certain purple-haired member of Team Kushina, the red-eyed beauty didn't believe that Kenjutsu was a necessary skill to learn at the time. Now it seemed like her ignorance in the matter was coming back to bite her in the ass. Kurenai, I want you to gather the genin and the client and fall back to Konoha. Report to the Hokage and tell him that the Anbu Black Ops needs to deal with these creatures as soon as possible. Kakashi ordered as he prepared to stall the creature to buy his comrades some time to retreat. Before the plan could be enacted, several Roppoken-style shuriken flew through the air and stuck the creature in the chest. It wasn't enough to cause serious damage to the Vangelf, but it did catch the attention of the demonic minion and everybody else. It seems like I can't leave any of you guys alone for a couple of minutes without having you run off and bumping into another fiend. A deeply familiar voice commented from the tree that Zabuza had used for his introduction. Everybody that was still conscious managed to look up at the tree and find Naruto standing on a tree branch with his arms folded across his chest. Kakashi and Kurenai let out a sigh of relief at the sight of Naruto as it meant that he had dealt with the creature from earlier. It meant that they didn't have to worry about being attacked by the same dinosaur-like creature on the way back. The brief moment of relief quickly turned into horror as Naruto jumped down from the tree branch and drew his ninjutsu sword. While Kakashi was confident in his student's ability to handle most situations, he was trying to face off against a creature that held its own against two Jonin. Naruto, we need to fall back and regroup. You're no match for this thing. Kakashi yelled out in horror as his sensei's son prepared to fight that monster by himself. Naruto simply ignored the silver-haired man and charged at the creature with blinding speed that was almost impossible to follow. Once he was a few feet away from the creature, the Vangelf took a swing at him and he dodged it easily. With practiced skill, he jumped into the air and prepared to strike at the base of the creature's head. Once he had reached the zenith of his jump, he began to bring his sword down. The sound of metal quickly slicing through the skin and bone of the monster echoed throughout the forest clearing. Everybody that was still conscious and had paying attention to the fight was shocked by the sheer ease that Naruto had in dispatching the creature. That was absolute amazing. He managed to kill the creature with a single blow and not receive any damage, Kurenai whispered as she stared at Kushina's son with eyes filled with wonder. While Kakashi could mentally agree with his fellow Jonin, he still needed to punish Naruto for disobeying him in a life-or-death situation. The silver-haired man watched as his student flicked the blood off of the blade before resheathing it into its saya. Granted, he really hasn't been able to teach much as any effort on his part was thwarted by Sakura's constant fangirlism and Sasuke's arrogance. Perhaps, this incident will drive home the realities of the shinobi lifestyle to them. Kurenai, I think we need to gather our students and get to Tezuna's place before any more of those things decided to show up. Kakashi spoke as he walked over to Sasuke's unconscious form. Kurenai nodded her head in agreement as she tried to sense Kiba's chakra in the area. She found the coward hiding in a tree that was 50 yards away from the battlefield and trying to come up with a plausible excuse as to why he had survived the attack. Without any hesitation, she grabbed him by the ear and dragged him back to the rest of group with verbal promises that his mother would hear about his cowardice. Once they had been reassembled at the lake, they quickly departed the area with a level of urgency that they didn't have before. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next part.